and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to the middle of the week. We are halfway to the weekend, my friends. That means we got to hear from the camel. Play it.
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Mike. What day is it, Mike? Leslie, guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Whoop, whoop. Yes, it is. It is hump day. Y'all, like I said, you are halfway to the weekend. Congratulations on getting that far. We're going to get you all the way to go home time on a Friday afternoon. In the meantime, JP's pushing buttons on the board. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm great. How about you?
Good. All your buttons are working over there now, too.
When you have power going to them, they appear to work. So, yes.
That's like a key ingredient.
That is the ingredient, yeah.
All right. We got a good stuff laid on for you. So it's middle of the week. There's a lot of things that happen, and you know about it already. But I'm going to tell you, first of all, coming up halfway through hour number 2, we got Alabama Congressman Gary Palmer calling in. Congressman Gary Palmer, longtime conservative, founder of the Alabama Policy Institute. We'll talk with him about the government shutdown. So that's coming up at the beginning or halfway through hour number 2. And then, you know the deal, beginning of hour number 3, it's midweek, it's Wednesday, it's hump day. That means Grand Council. Our brethren Dale Jackson still being unavailable. It's once again Jeff Poore and Scott Buttram. So we're going to have an amazing time at the Grand Council at the beginning of hour number 3. And then there's still a triple dipper just filled up with stuff. So hit it, man.
The Triple Dipper. 3 stories you've got to know.
That's right, the Triple Dipper, 3 stories, 3 themes, if you will, that you got to know as we run today's show. So first out the gate, the Shutdown Shinola. Yeah, we are. We are looking at a pile of Shutdown Shinola. The amount of Shinola being spread by the left right now is just galling. Like they can't believe that we would see it. They don't think we understand what's happening. We get it. They're doing it for political purposes. And meanwhile, people are going without paychecks because they want more stuff for illegal aliens and all of it. So we'll talk about the Shutdown Shinola. That's number 1 on the Triple Dipper. Number 2, and I may call an audible on this and move the order, but right now number 2 is scheduled to be Trump World. I didn't get to it yesterday, but I think it's important to discuss some things that are happening on the world stage. There are some pretty significant indicators that we are indeed the alpha male on the block. We are. The United States of America is absolutely the alpha dog, and the world is responding accordingly. That's number 2 on the Triple Dipper, Trump World. And then number 3, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. Military minded. I'm going to talk about it here in my monologue in a minute, but you know, the left is still having a come apart. How dare the Secretary of War talk to the generals? You know, go back and look at the pecking order. Make sure you understand who works for who. But actually, what's wrong with having an all-call meeting? And it was a good one. And I'll tell you all about it here in a little bit. But that's number 3 on the Triple Dipper. That plus other details, military-minded. All right, you guys, let me jump on into today's Right Side Way opening monologue. I'll remind you all that attorney Stan McDonald is indeed the daily sponsor of the Right Side Way. Stan McDonald, 30-year practitioner of law, longtime conservative, sponsor daily of the Right Side Way. And I'll tell you more about Stan here in a few minutes. All right, let me jump on in and just say that, so yeah, this week, the meeting happened that has all the left just kerflumped. They don't know what to do. They're apoplectic. It was going to be tyranny, they said. What meeting, you ask? The Secretary of War and the President of the United States had all of America's top generals and senior enlisted members come to Quantico and attend a large joint all-hands meeting. The room had more stars in it than the Milky Way. Generals, admirals, sergeants major, Army, Air Force, Navy, Marines, the left just knew that it was going to be awful. The things that they were saying were unbelievable. He's going to bring them in the room and they're all going to be fired. They're going to have to be signing a blood oath. I mean, it was the stupidest stuff I've ever seen. The generals were going to be given a choice, they said, of enacting unconstitutional violence on American citizens or told they have to resign. No, nothing like that. Not in the least. Everything the left predicted actually failed to happen. Go figure. I spoke to one young Army officer last night. This young Army officer told me that he watched the speech that was given by Secretary Hegseth, and not only did he love it, but he felt like it hit all the marks that the troops on the line actually believe in. He also said that he chuckled multiple times throughout Hegseth's speech. So what did happen? In case you didn't see it, What did happen? First of all, somebody please tell me why it's a bad idea for senior leaders to occasionally come together into one purpose in one place to just gather up as an all hands. I don't know. Is there a reason why that's bad? Can you not find some purpose in it? I'll tell you this. Secretary Hegseth said some things that I thought were valuable and they were worth hearing from the horse's mouth. In Hegseth's own words, he said this at one point. He said, quote, "From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: war fighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit, not because we want war. No one here wants war," he said, "but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace and they rightfully expect us to deliver." He went on to say, "Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time," he said. "It's called peace through strength." Yeah, me talking again. The world is not a steady place, right? There's not. There's wars and rumors of wars. We are engaged in some hostile situations, but we are not currently at war as a nation. But if we think for a minute that there'll never be another time of war, then we're living in la la land. But the Trump administration is determined to build America's military back to a place where we can once again use the phrase peace through strength, and it's long overdue. I've told you before, I think it was like 6 or 7 months ago, that peace is actually an active word. It can be a verb, more than it is a noun, really. Peace can be a noun, yes, a person, place, or a thing, but in the sense of making peace, it kind of has to be a verb. It's possible for a person to have peace or to know peace or to seek out peaceful moments in a busy schedule, but can you actually do peace? Can peace be an action? Well, interestingly enough, in the Hebrew language, when Jesus said peace, it was also a verb. In that language, in Hebrew, the answer to my question is yes, it is possible to do peace. In Hebrew, peace can be an action. The idea of peace in the English language sounds kind of calm, right? But the idea of peace in Hebrew is just a period between conflicts, a brief respite in an otherwise chaotic world in which we catch our breath and keep doing all that's necessary to preserve the peace while preparing for war. As George Washington said in his first annual address to Congress, he said, "To be prepared for war is the most effectual means of preserving peace." Well, I believe it was a verb tense version of peace that Ronald Reagan intended when he pressed the idea of peace through strength. Reagan believed that the best time to prepare for conflict was when there was no conflict, and that by doing so, our enemies would see us then as too big of an obstacle and therefore avoid more future conflicts. And by doing so, we would then have more peace. In effect, Reagan believed in the idea of doing peace. Think about that. Not just being at peace, but actually doing peace. The Biden administration, they believed in appeasement, containment, give the bad guys something, hope they'll stay in their lane. Let's be clear about something. Appeasement of bad men does not make them good. Appeasement of evil does not make it less evil. If someone is determined to commit atrocities, then they should not be given leave to do so, and they certainly should not be given things that help them. And honestly, appeasement only works if you're the strongest one in the discussion. Nobody feels the need to appease the weak. That's why we must return to the place that we press for peace through strength. Now, peace is certainly possible. Peace should always be the desired goal, but the means to reach that goal can never be found in weakness. The goal is peace, but the means is by strength. Come to the table, discuss peace with us, but hold the biggest stick at the table and you're going to get more done. Speaking at the Republican National Convention in 1980, Ronald Reagan once said, he said, quote, "We know only too well that war comes not when the forces of freedom are strong, but when they are weak. It is then that tyrants are tempted." That's true. They are tempted when we are weak. But Secretary Hegseth, he didn't stop there on the comments I gave you earlier. He didn't just espouse peace and give no guidance. His speech was a multi-point presentation given largely without notes and filled with heart and soul. He didn't just tell them to go figure it all out and dismiss the room. He actually gave a military speech that in military parlance was one filled with tasks, conditions, and standards. He told them not only what to do, but what to focus on, and what he expected from all of them as top leaders in the most vaunted fighting force in the history of the world. He told them that the primary position is to ensure the care of our personnel. That's primary, he said, our troops. He told them that the three biggest means of ensuring that victory and care of troops would stay paramount would be to then focus on training, equipping, and leading. And to do that, It requires removing all of the woke distractions that degraded our readiness and caused our adversaries to smirk at us on the world stage. In Secretary Hegseth's words, he said, "We're going to remove the social justice, the politically correct, and the toxic ideological garbage that's infected our department to rip out the politics. No more identity months," he said. "No DEI offices, no dudes in dresses. No more climate change worship, no more division, distraction, or gender delusions, no more debris." And then he added, "As I've said before, and will say again, we are done with that. I've made it my mission to uproot the obvious distractions that made us less capable and less lethal." Those are words like music to my ears, man. Like music to my ears. He even went so far as to state that gone are the days, too, of dual standards. He said if women want to serve in the high-stress, high-op-tempo fields of combat arms, well, that's great, but there will be one standard for excellence and not two. But then he went one step further. He also said that all the members of the military, to include every general and admiral and senior enlisted member in that room, would be required to pass the physical fitness test twice a year. He even said, gone are the days of fat generals walking the halls of the Pentagon. Well played, sir. Well played. So yes, we are moving back to an era in which we will operate from a position of strength. We operate once again as a nation that means what it says and says what it means, not under the fallible cloak of appeasement, not under the false flag of wokeness and insecurity. We are mighty, and we are reclaiming the mantle of authority that God gave us as Americans. On the world stage, we can be your best friend, or you can just wish you'd never heard of us. Again, I believe it was the verb tense version of peace that Ronald Reagan intended when he pressed for that idea of peace through strength. Reagan believed that the best time to prepare for conflict was, when there is no conflict, and that by doing so, our enemies would indeed see us as too big of an obstacle. The concept of peace through strength is the surest and most effective way to promote safety and security here at home. Our enemies are still growing stronger and bolder every day. Gone are the days when nations will survive because the United States engaged in some feckless and reckless appeasement programs. We must be willing to lead, guide, and direct from a position of strength if we're to remain a beacon for the world. So let me suggest to you, it is possible to both have peace and to do peace at the same time, and we have to. Don't for a second think that if you get a minute to breathe freely and relax that it means there's nothing left to do. Consider that Hebrew term for peace that indicates that peace may be upon you and peace may be a thing to be grasped, but peace may be a restful moment, but peace may also be a thing that you have to do. So blessed are the peacemakers, but it's not an idle job to be a peacemaker. It is a busy existence, and strength and preparation and forward thinking, those are the doings of peace. And by the way, peace can be restful. You can be at peace even when everyone around you is losing their ever-loving minds. That's that peace that surpasses all understanding that we hear about in Philippians 4. I've got it. I know a bunch of you do as well. But even still, we cannot be idle. We will keep calm and carry on. And remember that peace can be a verb. And yeah, peace through strength is back, baby. It is back. And that's a wrap for the Rightside Way. Yeah, as a 30-year military veteran myself, the son of a general and the son of a colonel, the father of a major, let me just tell you, that speech gave me heart. It gave me courage. And the left is freaking out about it, which tells me exactly that my feelings about it are true. It was the right thing to do just because they can't stand it. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hey, you're not going to want to miss the latest edition of the Just Right podcast. We just put it in the can. Listen, we interviewed Ton Boyer, author of The Ground Kisser. What an amazing story she has, escaping communist Vietnam as a child, on a refugee boat filled with hundreds of people, intercepted by pirates, left adrift in the South China Sea, became a refugee, eventually found her way to the United States. She has a mission right now, basically to tell the world why America is the greatest place on the face of the earth, and two, to make sure Vietnam veterans know that they are loved and appreciated. Ton Boyer, you are not going to want to miss this conversation. Just Right podcast coming up. Yeah, let's do a show.
1, 2, 3, hey!
Well, Ton Boyer, welcome to the Rightside Media Studio.
Thank you.
We're glad to have
for
you.
having me.
Look, I'm going to do just a brief introduction, sort of tell the world who's sitting here at the table with me. But you got an amazing story. An amazing story. You grew up in a time of war in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
You became a refugee at one point. robbed by pirates as you were, leaving the country.
Right.
You were left adrift at some point, I understand. You wound up in Indonesia. You finally came to America. You found your husband. You found the Lord. You raised a family. And I think one of the things that I've noticed is you have a love for this country, which we'll talk about more with your book in a minute. But for right now, welcome to the Just Right podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Well, listen, I said it a moment ago. So you grew up in a time of war.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us where you're from and how that came about.
Yeah. I was 8 years old when the war ended. I came from in Vietnam. I came from the Mekong Delta of Vietnam. We live right by the Mekong River. Mekong River is pretty big river. I think it's even bigger than the Mississippi River here. But we live right on the border between Cambodia and Vietnam. It's about 6 miles from my house. The border is, and I was 8 years old when the war ended. And because I live on the border of Cambodia and Vietnam, I also experienced the war between Cambodia and Vietnam after the fall of Saigon in 1975.
Yeah, that was a turbulent time. I mean, you're talking about the time of not just the United States presence in Vietnam and what the fall of Saigon was 1975. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I think the U.S. troop pulled out in 1973.
Yeah, and then Saigon fell in 75. Is that right?
Right.
And the communist takeover of the country at that point.
Exactly.
But then the Khmer Rouge were north in Cambodia, and the killing fields started in like 78, 79 time frame.
Yes, about 76 when it kind of started, and then it just escalated between 78 and 79.
Now you lived in the Mekong Delta area, so were you in an urban environment or were you in like a rural environment?
I was in an urban environment. It's a little town called Tăng Châu, Tanchau, and is in the An Giang province. It's the roads in Vietnam is really not smooth like here, so it takes about 6 hours from Saigon. So it's a little bit southwest of Saigon.
Listen, I've had some time overseas myself in different parts of the world, and I've said many times people don't realize here in America that the dirtiest alleyway is sometimes better than the best road in foreign countries.
Yeah.
Do you remember war when you were a kid?
Gosh, yes. I remember a lot. And when the thought of putting my story together and putting it in a book, I realized that I had forgotten a lot. And once I enlisted Lisa Smith to help me with the book, she asked some questions, and it just kind of, helped me to go back to the past. So I remember mostly where I am. The Vietnam War didn't affect me as much, but the war between Cambodia and Vietnam affected me a whole lot more because being near the border town, living by the Mekong River, we saw the atrocities of Pol Pot's, the killing fields, basically, coming down that river every single day.
I saw a speech you gave getting ready for today, and you talked about the fact that your mother would say, "Don't go to the river."
Yeah.
And you did anyway.
Yes.
Like most kids would do. Mom says, "Don't do it."
Exactly.
You did it, but what did you see? What happened when you went down there?
Well, my parents tried to shield us. We came from a very wealthy family, so my parents tried to shield us from a lot of things, and there are times where the atrocity.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. All right, so the text lines are indeed open. You can text it, call it, same number for both, 833-687-4448. That's 833-68-RIGHT. By the way, don't forget, I will be heading to CNN again tomorrow. And so the same ladies who guest hosted for me a couple of weeks ago will be here. They're amazing. You're awesome. You'll love them. Give them all of the attention you could possibly and all the courtesies that Rightside Ruffians are accustomed to. But yeah, Amy Beth and Allison that will be here in studio with JP tomorrow while I am doing my flight to New York City to stand in the gap as the conservative at the CNN table. Oh boy, I have no idea who I'm going to be on with. It's always a mystery till I get there.
I love how they make that a mystery till you get there.
I mean, sometimes I feel like they'd almost do it on purpose.
Yeah.
In
Because
fact,
then you'll cancel if you know.
There've been a couple of times I showed up, felt like I was the only one that wasn't told.
You mean like last time?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, that's tomorrow, and so I appreciate your indulgence and listen, tune on in because those ladies are amazing. I look forward to them being on the air. So I got to tell you about attorney Stan McDonald. Yes, I do. Stan McDonald, lawyer for 30 years, partner at the law firm of Wilmer and Lee, which is a great firm, by the way, out of Huntsville. He's a 30-year veteran in the practice of law, like I said, but he's also a just like decades-long conservative, doing all the things that Rightside Ruffians care about for years. He's an OG ruffian from way back. But yeah, as an attorney, Stan McDonald has represented his clients in literally thousands of real estate transactions. He can stand up for you in any local, state, or federal court. I like to say that if Stan McDonald's on your side, you're going to have no greater friend. Likewise, your enemies would have no greater foe. So that being said, you want an attorney. Well, why when you want a conservative one, like Stan McDonald? I'm going to give you his phone number. You ready? Stan McDonald, law firms Wilmer and Lee, America First Family Man. It's 256-533-0202. That's 256-533-0202. And tell him you heard about it on Rightside Radio. And no representation made. The quality of legal services is liberal at all. He's a conservative. He's a good lawyer and he's conservative. Why would you want something else? There you go. Thank you very much. Just dropping that bomb on you. Text lines are going crazy already. Let me see what I got here. Herb from Gurley, Alabama says, the only thing wrong with getting all your generals in one place is they can all be destroyed at once. This is how Israel set up its enemies. By the way, loved Hegseth's speech. Yeah, I know that was one of the things that was being said, but I don't think that was really a concern. They were meeting at Quantico. I think it was a very controlled environment. And I also think that security was probably extremely high, especially considering the president came and spoke. So there's that. Nofre from Lexington says, and they wonder why our recruitment's up for the military. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Donald J. Trump. That's why. I wouldn't be
I wouldn't text clarify. I meant to say 58.
He said, I said, I wouldn't be 58 years old. I'd be in the list. I get it, man. Got me riled up. I was about ready to jump in. All right. I hear music playing dimly in the background. So let's move it on forward to a break. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
That's body parts coming down that Mekong River. And I'm not talking about one or two bodies. I'm talking about a wave of hundreds and thousands of bodies.
And you saw this as a kid.
I went, my mom and dad was like, don't go to the river, don't go look out to the river. And other kids, of course, me, and also dragging some of my siblings and cousins and go look at it. And I remember seeing bloated bodies, headless, heads and hands and limbs, and just coming down, floating down the river, and watching some of my relatives taking long sticks and push the body parts back into the channel so that it would, keep on floating down that main channel. And I remember the smell of it. It's just horrific.
There are, I've heard it said sometimes that memories are sometimes keyed more by smell than they are by visual.
Yeah.
Smells come back to you. They bring things back.
Absolutely. Believe it or not, the blooms of the pear trees in spring bring that memories back.
Really?
There's a smell of it that it's remind me of the bodies that I smell as 8-9 years old. Wow. And I remember the other 2 weeks ago when I was given talk to a high school kids, and another memory came back of that time. I remember when the water received from the Mekong River. Sometimes my family would let me play, me and my siblings and cousin. I have 1,000 cousins in Vietnam. I mean, we're all related somehow. So we would play by the river, you know, out there with the water about waist deep, and us playing in that river somehow. I remember seeing a hand.
Oh, wow.
You know, and we were all just screaming to get out of the water. And when you start seeing one or two body parts, there's more coming.
Mm.
So, I mean, within hours, you start seeing more bodies coming in. That's the Cambodian, that's Pol Pot's. Their communism, I think, is more evil than even Vietnam, because if you wear glasses, they will kill you. That's represent intellectual. They're not going to have it. If you can read a book, they will kill you.
And I remember hearing too that one of the things that was so amazing was how they would have children turn against parents, and
yes,
and parents even turn against children.
Yes.
And it was self-preservation meant turning someone in, and that was how you protected yourself. And
yes.
what a horrible life.
And I mean, to today, there are homes in my hometown where blood stains on the wall still. There's still blood stains on the wall, because where the Khmer Rouge would come in at night, and they would try to extract information from the locals, and they would take babies from mother's arms and take the baby and smash the baby against the wall. And there's still blood stains on those walls to today.
Well, I don't think Americans sometimes realize the blessing of living in a country where war does not touch the ground we walk on.
Right. Yeah.
Having said that, so you lived through some amazing events in your home country, your original your country of your origin.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like when the communists took over the country? I mean, you went from, and you said your family was fairly wealthy.
Mm-hmm.
What did your family do, by the way? How did
Yeah. So my great-grandparents, my paternal great-grandparents, escaped the communist part of China.
Okay.
So he and my great-grandmother escaped communist part of China and settled in the Mekong Delta. He was a Eastern medicine man, so that was his profession. So they started a family there. Because we live by the Mekong River, which the Mekong River is a gateway to all the commodities, you know, coming down that river.
Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Right Side of Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This show. I mean, it goes like from Huntsville back on over to Chattanooga. I am talking about from Tuscaloosa back on over to Gadsden. I mean, all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, and straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. Benning! And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And by the way, that's just the radio. Then there's all y'all, I like to say, out there in the whole wide world, going the World Wide Web, dialing us in on the live stream, watching inside the studio, audio and video, with places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then, oh, by the way, there's a bunch of y'all that podcast the show after the fact and catch up where you missed. All I'm saying is, I say it on that way for it's not just to kind of like say, hey, look at all the places we're at. What I'm trying to say is we see all the places y'all are at. The fact that you do listen to this show in whatever form means the world to us. So thank you very much. We appreciate you more than you can possibly know. Let it never be said that Right Side doesn't appreciate its audience. We know where we came from. A few more text messages real quick. Jerry from Decatur says, blessed are the peacemakers and ready are the warriors, airborne. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. All the way. Dana from Athens says appeasement of evil only gives evil strength. Put that on the bumper sticker. Thank you, Dana. Jack from Huntsville says yet another terrific monologue, Colonel. Thank you, sir. He says peace through strength, true words indeed. He said, I was up near your neck of the woods last night, saw Billy Bob, Sling Blade Thornton, and the Boxmasters at the Sand Mountain Amphitheater. Oh, really? Very entertaining. He said, even got a guitar pick, a drumstick, and shook his hand. How about that? Billy Bob Thornton was in Albertville? Or that's pretty cool.
I didn't know that either.
I did not know this. Alex Mathen says, oh, thank God. I will never again have to wonder if a portly and slow-moving National Guardsman will actually be able to protect me from Al-Qaeda. Listen, I love the fact he literally told him there will be no more fat generals walking the halls of the Pentagon. And I tell you what, I wasn't going to do it till later. I want to go pull clip number 3. Can you do that? Clip number 3. This is a quick clip of Hegseth telling the generals and senior enlisted who were in the room, generals, admirals, and all of the sergeant majors and others and the master chiefs and everybody, that if what he had to say bothered them, they should do the honorable thing and just resign. Play it.
The words I'm speaking today are making your heart sink, then you should do the honorable thing and resign. We would thank you for your service. But I suspect, I know, the overwhelming majority of you feel the opposite. These words make your hearts full. You love the War Department because you love what you do, the profession of arms. You are hereby liberated to be an apolitical, hard-charging, no-nonsense, constitutional leader that you joined the military to be. We need you locked in on the M, not the D, the E, or the I, not the DEI or the DIE of dime. By that I mean the M, military, of the instruments of national power.
That's awesome. The whole speech was like that. I mean, it literally was.
But this is why I think it's important. Everybody was on the left was saying Pete Hegseth was a Fox News host and was like unqualified to do the job. But I actually think him having that background on top of his prestigious military background makes him such a good Secretary of War, because he can speak to the issues and he can speak to the guys that are under his purview so well without notes and impromptu and be so effective. I think that's important instead of having like a Lloyd Austin that's just like, just there.
Lloyd Austin was an empty suit.
Yeah, exactly. But I think him being able to speak to the men that are under him in such a good, manner, I think that's a strength, not a weakness.
I agree. And the left's now doing everything they can to denigrate him personally. Mm-hmm. I've got this. I'm almost sick of looking at Twitter because X is filled up with people who are taking issue with this speech. Well, this was just cronyism. This was just like just pure schwack, man. This was nothing but a game show host out there. It was ridiculous. And then a lot of people are saying a guy who never made it past major should never have been allowed to be Secretary of Defense. Go back and look at the list of people who have been Secretary of Defense and tell me how many of them even served in the military.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, you can look at, I've got this guy that I follow. He's great, by the way, just some of the best writing in short, concise statements about military life. You can tell he's an active duty officer right now, but he goes by Infantry Dort, D-O-R-T, Infantry Dort on X. He just posted, he said, I did some checking to find out how many of America's great military leaders actually got to skip ranks. And you got people like Eisenhower, who went from lieutenant colonel to brigadier general. Just skipped ranks. George C. Marshall was promoted from brigadier general to full 4-star general, skipping 3 grades. You got John J. Pershing, went from a captain to a brigadier general.
That's a bit of a jump.
You got Ulysses S. Grant, went from captain to brigadier general.
Yeah.
You got James Gavin, who, by the way, James Gavin is a legend in the paratroopers. He was the commander of the 82nd Airborne in D-Day. I think Gavin is the one who actually broke his back on the jump and refused to leave the field. But James Gavin went from captain in 1941. He was a brigadier general by 1943. So yeah, this is ridiculous. And I would say that most of the people that are posting this kind of crap are the kind who literally never served or just hate Trump so much they can't abide by anything being right.
But I think it's a sign that Hegseth's doing such a good job because they're going after him personally so hard, just like they are RFK, like Tom Homan. The most effective members of the administration are the ones that are getting attacked the most. So I actually see it as a good sign.
I would agree with that. Real quick, Tom from Decatur says being a graduate of Princeton doesn't hurt Hegseth either. That's true. He's a Princeton grad. He's also a war veteran. He served a tour in Gitmo. He was in Iraq, Afghanistan. So yeah, I got props. Joe in Tennessee says the fat Karens on The View reportedly don't like the new rules for the military. Wah. You know what? I'm wondering if Anna Navarro is going to be on with me tomorrow night. We'll find out. Paul from Huntsville says, no one expects a general to score a 200 on it'd be a 300, thank you, 300 on a PT test, but leaders who expect fit troops must be fit. I know, and by the way, there's age standards. So it's not like a 58-year-old general officer is supposed to do what a 22-year-old, E4 can do. It's not like that. And granted, we all understand that general is not going to be the one, leading the charge on the battlefield or standing in the way of the enemy in a foxhole. But nonetheless, there's a lead by example moment. Anyway, go back to Paul's text. He says, leaders who expect fit troops must be fit. When you're carrying your 100-pound rucksack, you don't want to come back to the base to see a general who looks like he's been sitting in the DFAC. That's the dining facility. Agreed. David in Huntsville said it's wrong to chastise these high-ranking military officers for putting up with and implementing the woke agenda of previous occupiers of the Office of Commander-in-Chief. No, it's not. There was no chastising them. He just told them it's not going to happen anymore, first of all.
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't tell them they were wrong, but he did tell them if you want those things to come back, then you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
And I will also say, too, there were times when there were certain leaders who profiled, we call them spotlight rangers. They were spotlight rangers. They saw something. They knew what was, the winds of favor might be on me if I do more about this than I should have. And they made people's lives miserable. There are also ways you could have mitigated this for your troops, and you didn't. So I have seen spotlight rangers be, in positions of authority and make your life miserable with all the things they think will get them promoted, as opposed to what makes their unit ready. And that's what he's saying.
Yeah, I didn't see any finger pointing. Shame on you. I think it was just, these are the new standards.
That's right.
If you don't like it, do the honorable thing and leave. But this is how things are now.
That's exactly right. David at Bucky says, Phil, way back in 74, while stationed in Korea, our division commander would call us all together for a little pep talk. He reminded us why we were there and what was a few miles to the north. It did a lot to boost our morale and pride in our unit and service. There you go. Outstanding. And David at Bucky's, thank you again for your service. John from Huntsville, Phil, absolutely brilliant monologue. Thank you. Also, did you hear that those twin hurricanes are wreaking havoc on the island of Bermuda? I did not, but I'm not surprised. So, by the way, I think Trump World sounds like a very expensive amusement park. Woo, it's only amusing if you're a conservative. Jeff from Indiana says, Phil, say it. Is it so? No more Admiral Levine? No. By the way, Admiral Levine was not actually in the military. Admiral Rachel Levine supposedly was with the Department of Health Services. He says, while I have respect for anyone who's put on the uniform or does not, put the uniform on does not mean that they're all respectful. Like you, I always say respect is earned. Perfect. You guys are so amazing. I'm getting a couple more of these. Steve from Tennessee. The peace that passes all understanding comes from being the most prepared troop in that foxhole. Well, it comes from the Holy Spirit, Steve, but there ain't nothing wrong with being prepared. That's called good stewardship, if nothing else. Roger from Ardmore says, I am proud that I went through the police academy in South Alabama, one of the first, if not the first, women police officers in Alabama. She was required to meet the same physical standards as the male trainers. The only difference was she had to stay in the women's dorm because she could not stay with us. She made it through and gained respect from all of us. I'm with that. I've got a phone call. I did not know this.
Well, it was literally just now. So there you go.
Okay, great. Let me get it before the break because I can do that. I got a couple minutes. Sparky from Harvest. Hey, brother, how are you?
Good afternoon, Colonel.
I'm good, man. How you doing?
Good. Pushing of the sliders and the buttons there, JP.
Appreciate it.
I've got some military friends. A friend who retired recently who took umbrage with the cost of traveling all the flag officers to meet with the Second War. I take a different tack. I think a tightening up and a pep talk, which was mainly what they were given, a very motivational pep talk for most of them,
Yeah.
but also a warning that that we're going back to some very old school rules here, and woke is gone, merit is back, and if you're not in line with that, it's okay. You're all old enough and mature enough to go ahead and retire out. It's not like anybody's going to get fired, but they can just go ahead and collect their military pension. You know?
Yeah, and I tell you what, I got a couple more thoughts on that travel too, Spark. First one is, I wonder how many of those generals at some point in their career seized onto that old phrase "carpe per diem," meaning that they went somewhere they didn't necessarily have to go because they knew they got paid per diem to do it. And people do it all the time, and we all know that. So I would guarantee you some of them have done travel and things that they didn't necessarily have to do, but they did because the government paid for it. But the other piece I'll say is, to be a general officer, you almost have to have been in service for 27 to 30 years. And I would bet that in their entire careers, that's the first time this has ever happened. So when you look at it from the standpoint of how long it took for them to get called to one of these meetings, I would think that we have saved money along the way and it was worth doing. I think this was a necessary expense.
Yeah, and the third element that occurred to me, I went to, when I went to the Warrant Officer Senior Staff Course, it was a 2-week charm school when you've been on W-5, right?
Right.
But they let us know at the schoolhouse, yeah, what we want to impart on you and teach you is good, but you networking from all the different branches, in this case, just the Army, your networking and communicating and being together is worth the price of admission. And that element of that meeting of all those flag officers, I think, is probably really good, very good.
I would agree. Absolutely. Hey, so you were a CW5?
I was.
You guys
I was quite young because I had been high school to flight school. I was like that teenage warrant officer who couldn't buy a beer, but he could fly a helicopter. So I stayed in long enough to make W5 at a fairly young age, actually.
That's awesome, man. I mean, CW5s, you guys are like the mafia. Nobody knows what to do with you, and you're rare as unicorns. That's kind of cool.
Right.
Do I salute him or just like call him Bob? I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it was usually Chief, which is funny. The walk-in warrants across the Army, they love that, and in the Marine Corps, it's a gunner, and I don't know what they did in the other services that still had any warrant officers, but aviation Army warrants, they didn't like being called Chief. I'm not sure why that was.
Yeah, but you Chiefs got to fly a lot longer. You stayed behind the stick longer most of the time, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I flew here for 15 years as a contractor after the Army, working for the test center.
Wow.
And 45 years of flying Army helicopters and never scratched one, never dented one. There's a lot of things I'm proud of in my service, but that's one of them, I guess.
That's cool. Well, thank you for your service as always, brother. Got to run to a break. You have a great day, okay?
You too, Colonel. I'm saluting you right now.
All right, thank you, bud. All right, we're taking a break. We're coming right back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We will be right back.
Cambodia and other part of the
trade route.
Trade route. So my paternal grandfather started buying commodities that came down that river, buy and sell, and he started that business. And he has 10 kids. My father is the third child. Okay. And everybody worked in my grandfather's business. And so he started that business. And I mean, we dealt with everything. We bought silk coming down that river. We had a bakery at one point. We had a Fanta bottling company, believe it or not.
Really?
In Vietnam, in South Vietnam at one point. So we were one of the richest family in our province.
So what happened when the communists came? Because
wealth
is not usually allowed in the communist countries.
Not at all. They came in and they basically overnight, with a stroke of a pen, they nationalize all of our businesses and take away and close our bank account, froze our bank account, start take over some of our homes and our land. And they were allow my family to have only the bakery. And even with that, they tell us what to produce, how to produce it, and even at what price. So we went from having one of the richest family in the province to being just like everybody. I mean, that's what communism and socialism is, right?
Yeah.
They basically their things is take from the rich to help the poor. Sounds great. Sounds really. Who does not want everybody to be equal? But it doesn't work that way. All I did was take away the incentive of people really working, want to do better for themselves, and the rich become poorer and the poor stay in poverty.
Yeah, communism crushes the spirit, doesn't it?
It is, and communism it's a religion. It is. It's a religion.
Was it so when they took over everything, when the communists took over the country, and the South Vietnamese government fell, did they literally come in, aside from the stroke of the pen and the things that they took, did they come in and did they micromanage your life? I mean, did they actually walk into the house and tell you, here's how things are going to be?
Yeah, we had a communist family came in and live with us.
Live with you?
Just to watch us.
They put watchers in your house?
Yes. To make sure we didn't hide anything from them, because we were rich. And basically we went from, okay, I'll give you an example. Before, when you have aches and pain, you can go to the market and get a bottle of aspirin.
Right.
When the communists took over, commodities and everything was so scarce that you can only buy one aspirin. And also because that's all people could also afford.
Wow.
A pregnant mom can only buy one multivitamin. You can't just go buy enough rice and soy sauce and things like that for your family, or fabrics and threads to make clothes. You have to stand in line to buy, those things.
Everything rationed, everything parceled
Everything rationed, yes. And you can stand in line for hours sometime, and there's nothing. And by the time they get to you, there's nothing left, and you have to come back the next day to get back in line.
Meanwhile, the communist leaders got fat.
They
sure.
got fat. Yes.
Yeah,
they
sure.
took over all the people homes and moved in, and even today, all the millionaires in Vietnam, you betcha, they have a communist tie to them.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so this is a turbulent time. How long after the fall of Saigon did you remain in the country? You personally remain in the country?
4 years.
So 4 years, so
And I think
1979-ish.
1979, 2 weeks after my birthday, which is in May, it's when my sister escaped Vietnam.
Okay, well, tell me about that, because I know in one of the speeches of yours that I reviewed, it wasn't your whole family that came out.
Right.
It was just a few, and your parents had to make a choice, basically.
Yes.
So what was that family discussion like to decide who leaves and who stays?
Gosh, I remember that night very clearly. I had several aunts and uncles. They were able to afford to pay passages. And when I say pay passages to leave Vietnam, meant that you're paying the official to look this way so you can escape
So
this
this is
way.
a bribe.
It's a bribe. So if you get caught, they can throw you in jail. So basically, you bribe the government to leave. So I had a few aunts and uncles that had signed up to leave Vietnam on this riverboat, and they're
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. So a couple of thoughts on this Hegseth speech and the gathering. All the arguments are out there right now from the left that they were going to be forced to sign a blood oath. Where did they get this stuff? Who ever heard of a blood oath anyway? Nobody signs blood oaths. Where are you going to have them cut their hands and stand in front of the altar and squeeze blood out on it and swear they're fealty? I mean, what was happening here? The left is just completely off the rails, in my opinion. And I will also say that I would bet the vast majority of people who were saying incredibly ridiculous things, like I just replied to one. I couldn't help it. I'm sitting here looking. So Ted Cruz does not look like he's going to run a marathon anytime soon.
I saw that
all right.
picture too.
So Ted Cruz is kind of caught in an image, probably at an airport. It looks like somebody took a picture of him and they posted on there. Senator Cruz strongly supports fitness standards for the military. Well, I just responded, senators don't stand on the wall, you jackwagon.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that kind of asinine mentality. So you're saying there should be no standards because senators are allowed to get out of shape? That kind of asinine behavior has got to go. Having been in the trenches, having been to places where we had no support. Listen, my entire first tour downrange was in what the Army called an austere environment, meaning that we had no support. I lived among the Afghan people. We got our supplies airdropped into us. We didn't have anything. In fact, we ran out of water sometimes. I mean, it was just unreal. Lived out there for the better part of a year, sometimes riding horses, wearing civilian clothes, the whole thing, eating Afghan food, got dysentery all the time. It was nuts. My point in saying that is it was my small team and a special forces team, and we were it. I can't imagine if there were people that were allowed to go into that who had no military bearing, no military experience, and no standards that led them up to the point that we could go there and do those things. You had to have the ability to make hard decisions without immediate supervision. We were away from the flagpole. But then I also served a tour in Baghdad, right smack in the center of Baghdad, right in the middle of the Shia uprising of 2004. And we were in the middle of what I would call high and tight army. I mean, it was, I was part of an infantry battalion, and we were in the middle of the thick of it. And yes, you had chain of command, you had the flagpole nearby, you had all the things, but you still had to make quick decisions. And I watched E4s and E5s and E6s do things that I felt like were some of the most incredibly difficult and on-the-spot decision-making that I had ever seen. I'll never forget some of the reaction times I saw it, and it was all because they were well-trained and were capable of doing these things. I want an army that's going to be that way. Anybody who doesn't like yesterday's meeting or the things that were said at yesterday's meeting is a penny-waste who has no idea what it takes to truly serve in hard places doing hard things. That was a nice little rant.
And perfect timing.
Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Taking a break. We'll come right back.
They're going to Australia because they felt Australia is the safest place to be. And also we have a few cousins that already left Vietnam before the fall of Saigon, and they settled in Australia.
Okay.
So overnight, one of my aunt came home and told my dad that there may be some empty spots on this refugee boat and that we should take the empty spots. And there's 8 of us in the family, my parents and 6 kids, me being the oldest.
Okay. How old were you at the time?
I was 12.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And basically, my parents have only a few hours to decide this. And my parents, of course, at this time in 1979, everybody was struggling. We don't have a whole lot of money. And I know it was a lot of sacrifice for my parents to even, bribe someone to the official for me and my sister to leave. And so, yeah, there were only enough money for just 2 passages. And so they picked me, being the oldest. I was 12. And my next sister, she was she's a little bit over 10 years old, to leave with my aunt and uncle. And my parent has to make the decision overnight. I mean, I just can't imagine. No. The pain and the...
Do you remember them telling you?
I remember, yeah. And I remember my parents said to trust them, and I think, being the oldest of 6, I'm pretty bratty. It's kind of like a bratty, and also kind of...
Were you headstrong?
Yeah. I mean, I can fight any boys in my neighborhood growing up. I mean, I would have like a spitting contest with the boys. And anyway, so I just felt like at that time, I felt like I'm trusting my parents. And even though now looking back, I can't even imagine them having to make this decision.
No.
Because, honestly, they don't know if they will ever see me and my sister again. They don't know that, right? But they have to make this hard decision because they knew that at least 2 of their kids may have a better life elsewhere than Vietnam.
Well, I mean, that's huge. And I've raised kids, and I understand you've raised your kids. And I cannot imagine at 10 and 12 years old sending them away and knowing I never see them again.
I remember saying,
what an amazing thing.
Saying goodbye to my little brother. He was 2 years old. And that night we slept in a mosquito enclosement. That's how we sleep in Vietnam.
Under
I remember
a net?
Mosquito net. I remember hugging my brother and one of my sister, 2 of the other sister. It was summer, so there was no school. So 2 of the sisters did visit some of our relatives elsewhere. I remember thinking, this is maybe the last time I get to see 2 of my siblings and my parents. And I just, that morning when my dad took my sister and I to the coast to leave on this riverboat, looking back and seeing my mom there, not sure if I ever see her again. That was hard.
Oh, well, I can't even imagine. I also can't imagine not just your side, but I can't even imagine the parent side of it. But so you got on the boat though, and you're on there, and you do have some family ties on the boat with you. You have an aunt, uncle, and some cousins.
Yes.
How many total?
There was 2 sets of aunts and uncles and 2 of their kids.
Okay. And then how many people total on the boat? I mean, is this
It's about 400.
Oh, this is not a small boat.
No, well, no, it's a small boat, but they fit as many people in there as they can, and there was not room. There was only room just to sit. There's not even room to lay down. And I remember one time my sister and I had our backs together just to sleep because there's no room to lay down.
All right, I heard you speak. This was not a smooth voyage. This boat, and you were actually at some point intercepted by pirates. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, how'd that go?
Well, not very well. But, well, first of all, the South China Sea was full of pirates at that time. And because they knew that the Vietnamese refugees carry gold and jewelries with them to start their lives elsewhere, right?
Right.
So piracy is, I think it was estimated that a quarter of the refugee boat people was robbed by pirates.
Wow.
And they're from Thailand and other, Malaysia, Indonesia, and all that. But yeah, we were, after several days at sea, we actually landed in Malaysia.
So you went ashore in Malaysia, or is this before the pirates or after?
This is okay. So this part may be a little bit sensitive, in a way, but this is the truth. We landed in Malaysia, and we thought we were going to be rescued. Well, the Malaysian Navy came out, and they tied our boat to their boat, and they pulled us out to the sea.
Oh, wow.
And we thought we were getting pulled to somewhere like a refugee camp or something. They pulled us out to sea where there's no people that can see them. They robbed us.
The Malaysian Navy?
Yes, because they were in uniform.
Wow. Wow. Did you have any personal items of your own stolen? Were there any people that were taken? I mean,
yeah.
Well, I would imagine human trafficking is also an issue sometimes in this.
That would have happened, I believe, with all my heart. But if it wasn't for the grace of God, God intervened during this situation because a huge storm was brewing. So they started robbing people, and they found a bunch. They came over with metal detector.
Yeah.
And the captain of our boat has hidden some gold on the boat, and they found the gold, and it was a lot of gold. And so they were busy doing that. And then they make people strip off their jewelry. And I remember my mom had sent some jewelry with us, some gold bracelets and necklaces and stuff. And my sister and I.
The International, and oh yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 2 on what day is this? Middle of the week. I almost said
Hump
Friday.
day.
I almost said Friday. I must be like already keyed in on the weekend. So let me get a few more text messages, and I'll jump into the first. Actually, I feel like we're already in Dipper number 3, military minded.
I wonder what our audience really likes to talk about. The military engagement.
We have a very military centric audience. We do. By the way, I will say though, shout out to Roy from Hartselle. Roy from Hartselle recently received one of our Rightside Ruffian shirts. He says, thank you so much. He said, I had my coffee this morning in my right side coffee cup. Now I'm eyeing that bulletproof influence glass and wondering what to do. Roy, glad you got it, man. Thanks for being a ruffian. We appreciate you. Kenny from Elkmont says, finally, a sec-def, sec-war with some guts and common sense and a sync commander-in-chief that will back him. Hoorah. Kenny, good stuff, man. SF guy from Huntsville, which would mean Special Forces guy from Huntsville, says, Colonel, about your comment about those who have a problem with our war secretary speech. I have a couple of 07 level friends, that would be like a brigadier general, who are apoplectic and themselves have been hard chargers and one involved in stuff that never happened. What is driving some of the reaction is reading the New York Times and the Washington Post, in addition to having already succumbed to stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. I would agree with that. And if they're apoplectic, sorry for their luck. But the bottom line is they didn't sign up to serve the ones they only like. But then I'll tell you what, though, I talked to a young officer yesterday who told me not only did he enjoy the speech, but it was the kind of thing he signed up for, and he actually chuckled all the way through it. Because I can tell you right now, the troops love hearing it. Mark from Huntsville says, current Army colonel here. So happy to see we're getting back to being a tough as nails Army again. Mark, thank you for your service, and appreciate you saying so. Thank you much. Monte from Huntsville says, okay, loving the attention on military fitness, clips of the SecDef and others, and then the death of Woke. But Woke still lives in the push-ups, and I'm seeing in these clips, a 4-inch range of up and down motion is not a push-up. In my day, the crusty old NCO would still be counting one. Listen, I've been there. And so on for these faux push-ups, seeing the same thing on the RFK clips. Make it stop, he says.
He's got a point.
He does. I get it.
I was taught growing up by my coaches, nose touch the ground push-ups, and that's a real push-up.
I was taught roughly if you had your fist on the ground and you touched your fist with your chest as you went down. But it also, the military standard was the elbow, and long-armed guys like me, I'm 6'2", so dadgummit. Little short, stubby guys.
Yeah. They could crank them out.
Oompa Loompas are like a ticka. But yeah, me, I these long arms, I had to go down. You have to make it. Your elbows have to be at a 90-degree angle.
Yep.
Dadgummit.
Hey, RFK, he is older, so you gotta give him a little slack. And he is jacked, so give him some slack too there.
I mean, listen, I hope when I'm his age, which doesn't feel that far away now. Chip from Muscle Shoals says, Phil, we saved more than enough to cover military travel costs just on condoms to Mozambique. Yes. Nofre from Lexington again says, we know why they were fighting so hard against Secretary of War Pete Hegseth in the confirmation hearings. If they knew he was going to clean house of all the people in the military for the wrong reasons. Yep. Matt from Madison says, to the naysayers, I'd like to quote Jack Nicholson from A Few Good Men. I'd rather you said thank you and just move on. You need me on that wall. You want me on that wall. Anyway, John C. from Madison says, I was always sort of a dumpy soldier. I never weighed what I was supposed to, so always had to do the tape test, or as you remember, the pinch test back in the 80s. But my PT scores were usually 270 or above. I can max out the push-ups and do sit-ups about a minute and a half. Since I had munchkin legs, I couldn't run as fast as people, but I was always able to run the distance. You always had the officers always say, if you can't run, you're not a great soldier, but the only thing they were able to do is run. And they got pissed off when I failed them in push-ups. John C., thanks for your service, brother. Nick from Harvest lastly says, hopefully he made sure to mention that general officers are not exempt from fitness and weight standards. He did, actually. He did. He said that every member of the uniformed services, to include general officers and senior enlisted in that room, will take a PT and a height weight standard test twice every year. Twice. I tell you what, let's go ahead and end this. I'm gonna go ahead and do. I'm gonna call for audio clip number 2. Let's do this. This is the beginning of Secretary Hegseth's speech, and I'm gonna play it for a minute or two, react to it, and then we'll close out with a break and come back and start Dipper would have been number 1 on shutdowns. Play it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Please take your seats. Well, Mr. Chairman, the Joint Chiefs, generals, admirals, commanders, officers, senior enlisted, NCOs, enlisted, and every member of our American military, good morning. Good morning and welcome to the War Department, because the era of the Department of Defense is over. You see, the motto of my first platoon was those who long.
I'd like to point out at this point, he said the greeting at the podium, and then he stepped away from the podium, and he did not go back to the podium the entire time. He paced back and forth on the stage and gave this entire speech without the benefit of notes. Go ahead. By the way, it's 45 minutes long.
Peace must prepare for war. This is, of course, not a new idea. This crowd knows that. The origin dates to the 4th century Rome and has been repeated ever since, including by our first commander-in-chief, George Washington, the first leader of the War Department. It captures a simple yet profound truth. To ensure peace, we must prepare for war. From this moment forward, the only mission of the newly restored Department of War is this: warfighting, preparing for war and preparing to win, unrelenting and uncompromising in that pursuit. Not because we want war, no one here wants war, but it's because we love peace. We love peace for our fellow citizens. They deserve peace, and they rightfully expect us to deliver it. Our number one job, of course, is to be strong so that we can prevent war in the first place. The president talks about it all the time. It's called peace through strength. And as history teaches us, the only people who actually deserve peace are those who are willing to wage war to defend it. That's why pacifism is so naive and dangerous. It ignores human nature and it ignores human history. Either you protect your people and your sovereignty, or you will be subservient to something or someone. It's a truth as old as time. And since waging war is so costly in blood and treasure, we owe our republic a military that will win any war we choose, or any war that is thrust upon us. Should our enemies choose foolishly to challenge us, they will be crushed by the violence, precision, and ferocity of the War Department. In other words, to our enemies, F-A-F-O. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength, brought to you by the warrior ethos. And we are restoring both. As President,
go ahead and stop there. That's so that the speech went that way the entire time, and it's absolutely nothing like what you heard in the last 4 years, because in the last 4 years, and I've got a copy of it in the drawer here. In the last 4 years, we saw for the very first time the Heritage Foundation downgrade its view of military readiness to incapable of defending on more than one front, and also declared that several of the branches were considered to be weak in their current readiness posture. That has never happened before in all the years that Heritage has been putting together their review of military fitness and readiness. That being said, you also saw any number of things like the National Defense Strategy coming out and saying that climate change was the existential threat that the military had to direct its attention to. Who does that? Not us anymore. Not us anymore. You saw recruiting. Remember this? You saw recruiting ads that weren't focused on what it would mean to be a warrior and taking a young kid off the street and making them into something that they never would have been able to make made on their own, part of the big green team. No, what you saw was ads that would say, I was born with 2 mommies and I couldn't wait to serve in the military so that I could help bring diversity to America. Who does that? Not us anymore. Not us anymore. All said and done, it's an entirely different mindset, but it is the mindset that we're supposed to have. And having served myself and been a part of a family who served, I am gratified to know that the time spent in uniform by members of my family, both past and current, is now being leveled up to a point that it was not before. I was very concerned about where we were headed. I tried to maintain a sort of a sense of optimism, but it was only an optimism that was not built upon the caliber of people who were enlisting, but on the lack of caliber in the people who were leading. What you're watching right now is a War Department that is absolutely designed to do that which it was intended to do. I'll end with this. There's a quote that I love from John Stuart Mill. It says this, it says, the person who has nothing for which he is willing to fight, nothing which is more important than his own personal safety, is a miserable creature, and he has no chance of being made free unless he is kept so by the exertions of better men than himself. It's a great quote. Think about it. All right, there you go. That's military minded. I think I changed the whole order of the day. We're going to take a break right now. We'll come right back, and I'm going to jump on into some Shutdown Shinola. Shutdown Shinola. Well, here we go, man. And the Senators has left town. Oh, boy. We'll be right back.
They strip them off of us, and we would stuff them in our mouths just to hide from the pirates. So that was saved. But they found a lot of gold from the captain that they didn't want to bother with the people too much. And even while they were robbing us, there was this huge storm brewing really fast, and they wanted to get out of there. So
sometimes God calms a storm, and sometimes he brings a storm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so the storm was brewing really fast, and they were trying to rob us really fast, so they didn't search everybody.
So you got to keep your...
So my family got to keep ours.
Wow.
Jewelry. But that storm got them out of there. And their plan was they disabled our engine and threw some of our provision overboard. So they think that storm was going to capsize our little boat.
They disabled the engine, left the boat just adrift?
Yes.
Okay.
So they were hoping that storm would capsize our boat and kill all of us. So they don't have to do the killing themselves. We believe that is their plan. But that storm, if they didn't capsize a boat, that they were hoping we would be floating in the South China Sea, starved to death because they disabled our engine. We couldn't go anywhere.
How long did you stay adrift after that?
Several days.
Wow.
Several days adrift. And that storm actually carried us to Indonesia, closer to Indonesia.
Which is where you wound up.
Yes.
In a refugee camp, am I
right? Yes. So the Indonesians saw a boat and they came out and they helped us.
That's an amazing circumstance.
Yeah, exactly. God just intervened.
How about that?
I believe that with all my heart.
Well, I believe it with you. So you got to Indonesia, and at this point, I mean, this has been a journey already, but you're not through.
No.
And now you go into a refugee camp that I saw one of your speeches, and it sounds like it was not really a well-established camp when you first got there. It was more like survival. Am I right?
Right. We were the second boat that arrived on that refugee camp.
Okay.
There was one other Vietnamese refugee boat there already. But every day, more refugees arrive on this island, and there was nothing on this island. There were not even shelter for us. Food was really scarce. There was still a little bit of food that we brought with us, and we ate what we had. and then we start eating things that we can found on the island. If you're lucky, you can catch fish out the sea. But we ended up, and I remember eating things like snails and trying to find leaves and barks and grubs that I ended up eating.
I heard you say on one speech that you could go on the show Survivor and do really well.
Yes, I think I can. I really can.
There's big money in that. You need to, well, but as a kid, so you're only 12 years old, and now you're eating grubs and making your own shelter, and you and your extended family are among how many people in this camp?
Well, like I said, thousands of people. I think it was estimated about almost half a million refugee by the time that camp closed.
Wow. Who was running the camp? Was there an organized agency that was helping assist the camp, or was it just makeshift?
Not yet. We were there for several months before the international organization found that there were refugees there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So what organizations wind up coming to your aid at some point?
It was CARE International.
CARE, yeah.
And World Vision.
Okay.
The Catholic, I think some Catholic church organization.
Red Cross or UN, did they show up at all?
I can't remember. I just remember CARE, CARE, and I remember World Vision.
Well, so.
Oh, and I do remember there was a ship that parked right outside of our camp eventually after several months, and it's called Sea Swift or something like that.
One of the Mercy ships at a hospital?
It's kind of like the Mercy ship because there were doctor and nurses that come in every day from the ship, and they made a little hut-like, little makeshift hospital there for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Mercy ship.
Well, so once the aid organizations began coming in, and realize you're still in a refugee camp, so everything's very relative. But did life improve? I mean, did you have food?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, life did improve. They brought in a lot of medicine for. Oh, that's another thing. There were people that start dying of dysentery.
Oh yeah.
If you're not dying of starvation, you die of dysentery.
I had dysentery in Afghanistan, and it's not fun.
Oh my gosh.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Bulletproof influence, baby. Bulletproof influence. All right. So in a few minutes, we're going to have Congressman Gary Palmer calling in. That is the plan. And I will tell you, the shutdown occurred last night. So let's go ahead and jump on into that dipper here. The government shutdown began last night. There are currently any number of things and people, to include our U.S. military, that are not receiving pay. Now, some, like the military, have to stay on duty, but they're not getting paid. Now, granted, it's one day. It's not payday, so it's not like it's happening yet. And if we can get this thing resolved in the next few days, they will never know the difference because the bi-monthly paycheck will still come in on time and there won't have been a lapse. Right now, what we're seeing is the idea that people don't know what to expect because Democrats are holding out, asking for things they should not be asking for. Now, one of the questions is, how are they possibly looking for Medicaid for illegal aliens? That's not really happening. Yeah, it really is. It really is. Why do I know that? Because I brought freaking receipts. That's why. I've got an article right here from the Center for Medicaid Services, dated May of this year. CMS is increasing its oversight on states that are illegally using federal Medicaid funding for health care for illegal immigrants. Bam. How you like me now? I may take this with me to CNN tomorrow night because I predict that they will bring this up.
Just bring it out of your
I think I'll bring it right out of my
suit pocket.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Just shabam, slap it on the table. The Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services announced in May that they were increasing federal oversight to stop states from misusing federal Medicaid dollars to cover health care for individuals in the country illegally. Under federal law, Medicaid funding is generally only available for emergency medical services for non-citizens. But some states have been pushing the boundaries, putting taxpayers on the hook for benefits that are not allowed. Interesting how that works. They'll try to say, well, they've been upfunding it with state tax dollars. Money is fungible. Thank you very much. It doesn't work that way. Stop it. And stop trying to pretend you're not. So right now, what they really want is they really, really, really want, the Democrats really, really, really want the ability to make voters out of these illegals who are still in the country. Which, by the way, if you're an illegal alien here in the country, knowing full well the roundups that are going on and the effort towards deportation, why are you still here? There's that. But Medicaid funds must serve American citizens in need and those legally entitled to benefits, says the CMS Deputy Administrator, Drew Snyder. If states cannot or will not comply, CMS will step in. Last night, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson was on CNN with Caitlin Collins, Alabama's very own Caitlin Collins. And Caitlin Collins was absolutely determined to make him say that, oh, by the way, nobody's really giving illegals Medicaid. Well, they went back and forth on this issue. You got that audio clip? This is clip number 1. Go ahead and play it.
Of the House, Mike Johnson, and thank you so much for being here. Mr. Speaker, do you believe the government's going to shut down in 3 hours from now?
I think it is inevitable now. It's a very reckless decision that Chuck Schumer has made. The Democrats have taken the last vote. Within the last few hours, they voted it down once again, and so there's no other option. Now, it's important to note what they're doing here. They're throwing a fit. They're making partisan arguments. The House did its job. We sent to the Senate a clean CR. What that means, it's a very short stopgap funding measure so that the appropriators in Congress in both parties can continue their work of doing the appropriations bills, 12 separate bills. We've made a lot of progress in that. We just need a little more time because tonight is the end of the fiscal year. Chuck Schumer has refused to give the extra time. Why? Because we won't agree to restore health care to illegal aliens, because we won't agree to give $500 million back to the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. He wants to cut the big fund of $50 billion that we set aside to support and prop up rural hospitals in America, because we won't agree to those partisan demands. And $1.5 trillion in new spending on a 7-week stopgap funding measure. He's decided to shut the government down. It's real pain for real Americans, and it's so frustrating.
I heard you make that first point at the White House yesterday after the meeting y'all had with the president and with Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. People, as you know, people who are here in the United States legally have never been eligible for the Obamacare subsidies, for Medicare, for Medicaid. So what exactly are you saying that they're trying to do when you talk about giving free health care to them?
I'm so glad you asked. Okay, so when we passed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut, we had Medicaid reforms in the bill. You and I talked about it on the air. What we did was to eliminate fraud, waste, and abuse. There were a lot of people on the program who were enrolled in the program who were never eligible to be there. Medicaid is intended for eligible U.S. citizens, not illegal aliens, not also U.S. citizens who are able-bodied workers like young men. So we passed the law. The president signed it into law. Democrats voted against it, of course, and it's been wildly successful. The CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, which is the neutral arbiter of all these things.
Go ahead and stop it there. I let that run a little bit longer so you could hear, but what you can't hear is that she began to argue with him that this is not happening. And I mean, like, argue with him that it's not happening. And he kept having to say, it's happening. And I just read to you an article from the CMS itself. It's happening. We got Congressman Gary Palmer coming up next. We'll talk to him about the fact that it's happening. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
I had in the refugee, I almost died. I really thought I was going to die, honestly. In the refugee, I had dysentery so bad. But eventually they came in, they brought medication for all of us and food, lots of food.
In fact, now that you say that, I remember one of your speeches, you said to this day, you still get a hankering for Spam once in a while because they brought Spam.
Yes, yes. That's where I learned how to eat Spam. Yes. We still have Spam. Right now in our pantry, we always have Spam.
Well, it's funny what sticks with you like that. So you're in this refugee camp. Living conditions may have gotten somewhat improved, but you're still not in a good place. Is your family still intact? Everybody's still together?
Everybody's still together. And one of my uncle who serves in the Navy for the South Vietnamese Navy. So because he served, he get to pick what country to immigrate to.
Okay.
And of course, we picked the United States of America. Everybody wanted to come here.
Yeah.
This is the place.
Was it? And let me ask you about that, because, you know, in my time overseas and in my time in Afghanistan, I actually lived among the Afghan people for a year, and it's amazing. People who have never been to America still have an idealized version of what's here.
Yeah.
So you had never seen America, but you had seen Americans, I guess, during the Vietnamese War.
I have never had no.
So you had no interaction with Americans before.
Mm-hmm.
What was the never having seen it? What was the mental image you had of America?
Cold.
It was cold?
Yes.
Okay.
What I remember as a little kid, always hearing that America is so cold.
Okay.
And even when we were in refugee camp and getting ready to come here to America, whatever money left, my aunt and uncle left, they brought us wool sweaters to come to America.
They hadn't been to the South.
No. And it was July when we came, and we wore high neck, 100% wool sweater arriving to Huntsville International Airport.
What did you imagine about life in America before you ever got here? What was your did you have certain things you expected to see or you couldn't wait to see? Or
I could imagine, because my life before communists, you know, we had French things like cheese and butter and champagne, all that, not that, you know. And we've always heard that America's even better than that. So as a little kid, you know, I think about living in a castle, living in places, you know, that has carpet, and I don't know. It's just like a fairy tale, I guess. As a little kid, I just thinking America is like a fairy tale story.
Well, so the day came when you found out there was a sponsor in Athens, Alabama, of all places.
Athens, Alabama.
That was willing to sponsor a family from the camp.
Yes.
How did it turn out to be your family, and what was that like?
I think it was the Van Kirks of Athens. Mrs. Van Kirk was a Catholic, and there was a nun that came to her St. Paul Church and spoke on the plight of the refugee people, and said, well, they need sponsor. They need to get out of the camp. They need sponsor. And it just really touched her heart. And that's when she and her husband decided to sponsor a family. And the Catholic Church placed our family with her family.
Did they have any limits, like we can only take 4, or did they say we'll sponsor whatever they consider to be their family and we'll take the whole thing?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I never asked her that question, and now she has long passed away.
So who notified you in the camp that you were going to be going conservative, just plain right? And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just covering down on some major ground across the southeast U.S. of A on radio, and covering a whole lot of space on the big World Wide Web, live streaming on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then all you podcasters, 356,000 downloads of the podcast thus far of the show. Wherever it is you catch the show, you mean the world to us, and we appreciate you. And I just want you to know the only reason why we get behind the mic at all is because of y'all. So thank you very much. Listen, I'm bringing on somebody right now who is a friend of the show. He's been on many times. Congressman Gary Palmer is the founder of the Alabama Policy Institute, where I was actually on staff for a period of time now. You hear from Stephanie Smith quite often. She calls into the show. But Congressman Palmer now serves Alabama's 6th Congressional District in D.C., and he is on the phone as we speak. Congressman Palmer, how are you doing?
I'm good, Phil. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for making time for us. Listen, government shutdown started last night. What's going to happen with this? How long is it going to go on, do you think? And what do you know?
Well, I don't know how long it's going to go on. just depends on Chuck Schumer, really. And it's interesting that, in past situations like this, Schumer's always said that this is the last thing we should do that's harmful to the country.
Right.
Yet I think he's doing it because he feels pressure from AOC on all this. I think he's worried that she's going to primary him, and there's some suggestion that maybe we should be negotiating directly with AOC instead of Schumer. But I really think this is about his political future more than anything else, because what they're asking for, as you probably know by now, Phil, is totally ridiculous.
No, it really is. And the things they're asking for are I mean, they passed this same CR back in March, and it's not any different. It's level funding based on what was already there that they had previously approved.
Well, it's the funding levels that were passed and signed into law by the Biden administration that they supported, which, I'm not crazy about CRs, but what we're trying to do is give the appropriations committees in the House and Senate a little bit more time to get us actual appropriations bills. We've done our job on the House side. The Senate's the problem because they can filibuster these spending bills, and that's what Schumer's got them doing. Although he lost 3 Democrats, he's lost 3 Democrats already. We need 4 more to come over so that we can break this impasse and move the bill to the floor. We may need 8 because Rand Paul has indicated that he might not vote for it, but I think we'll work through that.
Well, and I would hope so. Right now, my understanding is the Senate has left town and not due back for several days. So we know we're going through the end of this week, I guess, at that point, right?
Yeah, I think they may come back over the weekend. This is the Jewish holiday, Yom Kippur, and so that's why they, out of respect for that holiday, they decided to stop the voting and let everybody go home for that. But we're going back Monday, and we're going to go back to work in the House and let Schumer continue his shutdown over there. And Hakeem Jeffries has a role to play in this too. He's worried he's going to lose his leadership position because he honestly hasn't done a very good job. And I think the Democrats have really painted themselves in a corner with this. Again, go back to, they're asking us to increase spending by $1.5 trillion.
Yeah.
When one of the main points of the One Big Beautiful Bill was to try to reduce spending. I know people have been told that we increased the deficit by $3 trillion, but that's only because the Democrats were putting it out there that we were going to let the tax cuts from 2017 expire. And there was no way we were going to do that. That they were saying that would bring in another $4.5 trillion in revenue if we let the tax cuts expire. And with our bill, we only increased revenues by $1.5 trillion. I know I'm nerding out on your audience, but I think most of your listening audience are really smart and good at math. But that's where they come up with this $3 trillion. And so what they're doing here is, even after accusing us of that, think of the hypocrisy of making that accusation against us. And then they want to add another 1.5 trillion. Again, it just exposes how reckless they are and how it's just politics.
Yeah, I would agree. And I've got one of the biggest beefs I know, and I've seen the talking points that the Speaker's office put out about this situation, is that the Democrats are also seeking the opportunity to ensure that illegal aliens can have access to Medicaid dollars. The liberal media is working avidly to deny that this is even a thing, that it can't be real because federal law does not allow for that to happen, except that I've got a copy of a statement put out by the Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services, CMS, earlier this year that said they are having to increase their oversight on certain states because they have been doing this. We know that California does it. California, exactly. Yeah. Can you explain to our audience a little bit about how they're working the system to try and get money to illegals?
Well, in the One Big Beautiful Bill, we made it illegal. We took away funding, Medicaid funding for people who are not here legally. And what the Democrat funding proposal that they're trying to that they're pushing out it would be nearly $200 billion in spending just on illegal immigrants and other non-citizens over the next decade. Bill, that's enough money to fund the Children's Health Insurance Program for the same time period.
Yeah.
And they do this by repealing the provisions in the Working Families Tax Cuts Law, that one big beautiful bill, that we impose work requirements on able-bodied adults with no dependents under 14, and all we ask them to do in order to stay on Medicaid is to work 20 hours a week. You probably work that many hours in 2 days with what you do,
Right.
or volunteer for 20 hours a week. But that's going to save us $300-something billion. They're against that. We also are making changes so that people can't be enrolled in Medicaid in more than one state. I don't know. There's 2.8 million people enrolled in Medicaid in multiple states, and some of those are enrolled in a federal health insurance plan that the taxpayers pay the entire amount, Phil. Just cleaning up that mess will save us another $140 billion a year, but they're against that. And plus, we did one. I was just on a call earlier with Russ Vogt, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, and Russ made this point about the $50 billion that we put in, totally dedicated to fixing healthcare in rural areas. And you were in the state Senate. You know some of the issues we have in Alabama with women not having access to maternity care, prenatal care, having to drive 2 hours or more to have a baby. And as Russ would put it, this is one of the most significant efforts to fix rural health care that we've ever had. They want to do away with that so that they can provide health insurance at the expense of the American taxpayer for people who are not here legally, including the ones who are criminal aliens that ICE is trying to pick up.
Yeah. I don't know how in the world they can make these claims. I know what you said about they're scared of their base and that Schumer's you're worried about AOC primarying him. I get all that. But I also look at this and go, is there any way that they can dodge the idea in the public eye that they are the ones causing the shutdown? Democrats, I mean.
I don't think so, because I think we've been very aggressive in getting out and explaining this to people and literally saying that they want to give taxpayer funded free health care to people who are here illegally and take it away from women living in rural areas who don't have access to an OBGYN, don't have access to a labor and delivery hospital within a reasonable distance from where they live.
Yeah.
I mean, that just shows how little they care about people in the rural areas. They call it flyover country anyway. And then again, to go back and talk about that we increased the deficit with the one big beautiful bill, and they want another $1.5 trillion in spending. They're total hypocrites, Phil.
Well, they are. And I've seen the video of Schumer in his early days and even Hillary Clinton and others saying that you just never do a shutdown. That's bad form. But there's very few that will say it right now. I did see, though, that Senator John Fetterman, who has actually been very surprising in some of the positions he's taken against the party leadership, came out just the other day. I played the clip on the show where he said that he saw this as a bad idea, that if you want to argue policy, he said, go win an election, but you don't argue it on the idea of shutting down your government.
Yeah. And Angus King from Maine, who's technically an independent, voted with us. I think some of these Democrats around the country are realizing that they've been led into a no-win situation by Schumer, and I think he got so much heat for not. Last time he threatened to shut the government down, he didn't, and he got so much heat for it, and that's why he feels all this pressure that, AOC is going to run against him, and Jeffries is afraid that somebody's going to run against him for minority leader. And
well, I'll be honest with you.
They're imposing this on the people of the country, particularly poor women. The Women, Infant, and Children's Fund that provides funding for people in that category is going to run out in about 7 to 10 days, and our military is not going to get paid. All because they want to grandstand to save their political careers.
Well, in the end, we've got to get them back in so we can get back to the regular order of business. I know that the House did pass its appropriations bills, and 3 of those have come out of the Senate already. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's like I said, we did our job. We've gotten our appropriations bills out of committee, gotten them through the floor, and we passed the CR to give the Senate more time to work with our House counterparts to come up with the final versions for the appropriations bills, and that we need to get to where we got 60 Republicans in the Senate.
Boy, isn't that true? Yeah, and that's another thing, by the way. That's 60. That's for the procedural vote, if I'm not mistaken. It's still a simple majority to pass the actual bill once you get past the cloture. Am I right?
Yeah, the filibuster.
Yeah, the filibuster. Well, listen, more to come on this, I know, but I guess a final question for you. Do you expect, I mean, I realize we're asking for a date certain, like the CR, if passed, would be coming due again in November. Do you think that the Senate can complete its work, and then also the conference committees to reconcile anything between House and Senate and get an actual budget passed by that time?
If the American public responds to this the way that I think they will, and the way they did in the 24 election, I mean, they want to make out like Trump didn't have a mandate. He won all 7 battleground states. There was no question about who won those states. If the American people will respond and start putting pressure on their members of Congress, and I think when November 21st rolls around, we might be in a much better position than we are right now. So I really encourage people to be letting Schumer and Jeffries and people like that know that, they're not fooling them. The American people understand what's really going on here.
Well, I hope so. I hope that's the case. I mean, I know this audience does, but there's a whole lot of what I would call low information voters, and then of course Democrats still have their base. But I really do feel like getting back to regular order of business is upon us. I mean, we're looking at it. We actually see, and like I said, like you said, the House did its job, and the Senate is going to complete it. I look forward to seeing a real budget. In the meantime, I thank you for your time. We got to take a break now, but Congressman Gary Palmer, appreciate what you do, and thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me on, Phil.
All right,
I appreciate it.
Take care now. All right, we'll take a break right now. Ran a little bit long, but that was good. It was worth having. We'll come right back, dive right in. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It was one of the organization. I guess it's the Catholic organization.
Well, all right. So how did you come to America? By boat, by plane? What happened?
By plane.
Okay.
Yeah. We when
Is that
we
the first time you ever flew?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we left the original camp and moved to another bigger camp for 3 months. And there we were examined by the doctors and x-ray our lung to make sure we don't have TB. Some of us did have TB, and so it took a little bit longer to be on medication to get rid of it before we came to America. So we were there 3-4 months there on medications and make sure that we're healthy before we entered the U.S. So, and then we flew to Singapore. No, they took us to Singapore by boat, and we stayed there another week behind an enclosed camp there just to get us ready to come to America. And then there we flew to Seattle, Washington. That was the gateway.
Okay.
And then from there to Dallas, I think, and then Dallas to Huntsville International Airport.
So what was your first impression of the real America? I mean, what's the first thing that you like looking back on it, what was the first thing that really struck you? I am in America. What did you see or hear or smell or feel?
Airport.
The airport? Okay.
And there was this lady at the airport walking around with a basket of big red, delicious apples. And I remember the smell of the apple and the look of the apple. We get apple in Vietnam, but they're all bruised and everything because they're shipped from somewhere, But this was like so perfect. And I'm thinking, America is going to be like that red, delicious apple.
Wow.
Everything is perfect. Everything smells so good, that was my first impression of America.
It's again, it's one of those things where I think sometimes we take for granted where we are.
Mm-hmm.
It is way too easy for Americans, having always lived in the first world,
Mm-hmm.
to really appreciate what we have until you go somewhere and realize what they don't have.
Yeah.
But you came from just the opposite. You came from a period of time where your family had everything, then you lost everything and had literally nothing, and now you're here.
Yeah,
And red apples made a difference.
Yeah, literally. I don't think we even have a penny to our name when we came to America. We have nothing left.
Well, that brings up a point. So you came to America, but then what? I mean, so did they give you a job, a house? So now what? You've been sponsored, but what does that mean?
Yeah. So when we got to Athens, Alabama, the community of Athens, and our sponsor provide us an apartment, a furnished apartment. And I remember seeing it for the first time. I remember take my shoes off and feel that carpet under my feet. It was so luxurious.
Wow.
And having flush toilet.
Oh, wow.
We didn't have to squat
Yeah.
to use the toilet. Running water, washer and dryer, soft beds. I remember open that refrigerator that was full of food.
Oh, they stocked the refrigerator for you too.
Yes. I remember seeing chicken in there that I didn't have to chase after, killed and plucked and cleaned.
Wow.
And gosh, I remember that bed was so soft that even one of my cousin, the boy, he was just 3 years old. And because he's got used to sleeping on the hard floor in the refugee camp, that he couldn't handle the soft bed. So every morning we would go wake him up. He'd be sleeping on the floor next to the bed.
Wow.
A different family come every single week to take us to the store, to take us to the health department, to take us to the dentist, enrolled us kids in school. They came taught us English.
So they didn't just sponsor your trip; they sponsored your family to live.
Yes.
Wow.
To help us be successful.
Was this out of one church, or was this a group of friends? What was this?
It was that family, and they included their friends and two churches. Mr. Van Kirk was a Presbyterian. Mrs. Van Kirk was a Catholic. So they had two churches involved.
Okay.
And then, of course, their family and their friends also. So it was not like a government program.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Just making common sense like a superpower. I got a short segment because I ran along with the congressman. I got to tell you, I got one text just now from someone who asked to remain unnamed. I don't normally do that because I don't think it's not normally reasonable. But in this case, I understand it. So I'm going to say, this person said, please don't use my name. I have worked in Medicaid for 23 years. Yes, illegals are getting Medicaid, and we are not allowed to ask them for anything. Beginning in the first Obama administration, the person says, the verbiage was changed from illegal alien to undocumented citizen. Unlike American citizens who have to prove that they are eligible, the undocumented citizens don't have to prove anything. That's interesting. Very interesting. By the way, I just found a video clip, and I had JP pull it and check it out. It's a very short one, but this is Democrat Congressman Ro Khanna from California, who sometimes, I'll be honest with you, is a voice of reason in the Democrat Party. But in this case, Democrat Congressman Ro Khanna is apparently saying, yeah, we ought to give illegals Medicaid. This is a new interview, I understand. On where was he? What network is he on?
Fox News.
On Fox. Play it.
In terms of the health care, The reality is they're just not being honest. The amount of money that actually is going towards people who are undocumented is such a small portion of the Medicaid cuts or the Affordable Care Act, if at all. And so we can argue that point, but the reality that even the vice president would acknowledge, that anyone who looks at the numbers will acknowledge, is 90 to 95% of the funding we're talking about is talking about funding for American citizens.
So what he's basically saying is, yeah, of the billions and hundreds and billions of dollars that we spend on Medicaid, 95% of that goes to American citizens.
What do they call it? Heck? A Freudian slip there.
Yeah, like his inside words became his outside words.
He said the quiet part out loud.
That's unreal. That's just stinking unbelievable. Then again, it's not. Mm-hmm. But at least he's honest.
Yeah, I mean, at least he's honest. Or after the interview, he was like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, his phone started blowing up.
Yeah, Chuck Schumer's
Hakeem
like,
Jeffries on the phone saying, "What are you doing?
You weren't supposed to say that, Ro."
Yeah, Ro, for God's sakes, man. Herb from Gurley says, "How can the shutdown be the fault of the Republicans? Every Republican voted for it, plus 3 Democrats even voted for it." Because Democrats get away with lying all the time. So we got to stay on. We got to stay on the message here. Stay on the message. Jeremy from Madison said, "I wouldn't mind hearing the language proposed by Democrats that states that they'll give health care to aliens."
Just did.
You just did. I think you're hearing all of it. And there's also, you can look at. I just was reading right here on Fox, a brand new story came up. How there was an audit done, a federal audit done of various states. And for instance, California's Medicaid program, it says, extends coverage well beyond limited federal Medicaid benefits to non-citizens and would generally have to pay for non-emergency services using state funds. But it also recently petitioned the United States government to give California something in the neighborhood of $59 million to help them cover the costs of all the illegal aliens they've been absorbing. Well, what does that mean? Well, they put their own state money into it so they could give their state Medicaid dollars to illegals, and then they want the government to pay them back. I mean, it's nuts. And so, Jeremy, there you go. Chris from Starrett, Alabama, will CNN ever let you and Mike Johnson on the same show together? I think they'd be scared to. I don't know, but I think I would have to defer to the speaker. If he wanted to come on with me, I'd say, come on. Monte from Huntsville checked in on something. I'm sorry. He was asking about something else. And yes, it already aired. Jeff from Indiana says, "Phil, it's very nice that we're not just pussyfooting around anymore, worried about whose toes we're going to step on and say what needs to be said. Pete Hegseth is the man. I can't imagine anybody else in this place." I would agree. And then Dave from Capshaw says, "Watching Sec War in front of the flag reminded me of George Patton in the movie Patton." That was good, wasn't it? That was. Your job's not to give your life for your country. Your job is to make some other poor, dumb SOB give his life for his country. Love it. All right, Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Coming back, we got the Grand Council with my brethren, Jeff Poore and Scott Buttram. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It was just the people in the community rallying together to help this refugee family. And I tell you, we would not be a successful family if it wasn't for the community of Athens. I mean,
I think you just nailed something too. In communism, the government does everything.
Yes.
But
yes, you
came here, and it was private citizens who did everything.
That's right.
And they did it out of the joy of their hearts.
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That refrigerator, you talked about that in one of the speeches I watched. You talked about that refrigerator, and you said a few things just now. There was chicken in there. You didn't have to catch it and pluck it first. But you also talked about one time when you thought you needed to eat some ice cream that was in the freezer.
Yes. So we're, of course, we came from a refugee camp, so food was, you eat everything.
You don't waste anything.
You don't waste anything.
Yeah.
So one day we're just sitting around, looking in the freezer and refrigerator and see what we can try. And we took out this tube of thing that looked like an orange sherbet.
Okay.
And we all took a spoon to get us try this American orange-looking sherbet. And we all went, "Oh my goodness, this tastes terrible." It was so strong. But because we just came from refugee camp, we sat there and ate a whole tube of orange sherbet.
And it wasn't orange sherbet.
No, a few days later, our sponsor, Mrs. Vankert, came over and she helped to make breakfast, American breakfast for us. You know, the southern grits and the bacon and the eggs. And she went into the freezer to look for this orange looking sherbet tube, and she couldn't find it. And we told an interpreter that we ate it, and it was horrible. And the interpreter told us that it wasn't sherbet; it was actually orange juice concentrate that we ate.
Oh my gosh, I bet that was strong. That'd take the enamel right off your teeth.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but I think you made a point though. Having come from where you come from, you don't waste anything.
No.
You don't. And I would bet that was more than just food. It was probably everything. Everything had purpose, and everything could be repurposed if necessary. Well, so you just mentioned a minute ago, though, you were working through an interpreter. How was the language barrier? You come to America, it's the land of promise. It's the fairy tale you're talking about. There's a stocked refrigerator and soft beds, but you don't speak the language. So how was that barrier overcome?
Well, there was an interpreter, and her name is Anne, and she show up once in a while to help, interpret. But most of the time, we don't have her. So we just point. A lot of time, we just point at each other or point at things, and there was a lot of smiles. There was a lot of nodding.
Nodding heads.
Yeah. And we just follow them whatever they want us to do. We're just so grateful to their kindness and the community.
Well, and I heard too, you learned to speak Southern American.
I did. 2 syllables to everything. Right?
2 syllables to everything. And one of the things I saw you say a lot of times, you'll say y'all and then laugh about it.
Yes.
Because you grew up in South Vietnam, so it fits.
Exactly. Love the South.
Well, so all right, you're a kid with a language barrier from another country, learning that there's places in the world that you can actually turn on the water and turn on the electricity and and that everything typically works. But you still have to find your way. I mean, at some point, the other people sponsoring you are going to have to say, we need to help you find a job, or we need to help you get in school. So how did life begin to normalize, and when did your family begin to be able to do things without the assistance of others?
Yeah, it was probably, they were with us for at least a couple of years, believe it or not.
That's amazing.
Isn't it?
That's the goodness of people right there.
Oh my goodness.
Praise God.
The love that they shown is just unbelievable. Some of them with us, checking in on us, even after a year or two, they were still checking in on us. And and they found jobs for my uncle at Conagra at the chicken plant there in Athens. He started working there and earned some money. And us kids were enrolled in school.
Okay.
And the school was, oh my goodness, they were so loving. I remember my 3rd grade teacher, because I didn't know the language, she had picked a child out the class to follow me everywhere I went to make sure I didn't get lost.
Wow. But you said 3rd grade, but you were probably 13 or 14 years old by now, right?
I was 13, yeah, because I spent 14 months in the refugee camp. At this point, I was near 15.
Because that's usually middle school, almost high school age, but you're in 3rd grade.
Yes.
So I guess they had to do an assessment to find out where you were academically and place you?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So you were older than all the kids?
Yes. Yeah.
Did it matter?
No, I'm not. I wasn't any bigger than them, actually. Oh. I was smaller. I was malnourished from the camp, and I was smaller than some of them, actually.
Wow.
And they would, at that time, I don't think they have the ESL
English second language.
Yeah, program yet.
Yeah.
But one of the language teacher pulled me out of class every day for an hour or so and worked with me.
Okay.
On the language. Yeah.
I've seen more than once that in families that come from foreign countries that the children learn the language quicker than the adults.
Absolutely.
Did you become the interpreter for the family?
Pretty much.
Yeah?
Yeah. My sister and I were, pretty much. My
Um,
aunt and uncle, eventually, they learned English, and they both went to Calhoun and earned an associate degree.
Oh, yeah. For those who don't know, it's Calhoun Community College. So
Yes.
that's outstanding. So
Yeah.
they were pursuing not just living, they were pursuing like improving their lot in life and doing which is also amazing because I think we have so many Americans that grew up in the first world, they forget the opportunities they have around them.
Oh, yes, absolutely. That's what immigrants like me see, that America is full of opportunities. And that's why all immigrants want to come here, because they see those opportunities that we as Americans sometimes miss living here.
Well, so how long were you? Did you stay in a grade level below your age?
No,
throughout?
after third grade, they decided to skip the fourth grade.
Well, no, yeah, like the dude just said, solid, conservative, and just plain right. Well, welcome to hour number 3 on Hump Day, y'all. I mean, we are halfway to the weekend, and if we hear the camel play at the beginning of the show, that means that hour number 3 starts off with a thing we call the Grand Council, where I bring in 2 of my brethren in conservative talk, and we sling questions at each other and just see where it stands. Now, we're having technical difficulties with Scotty Buttram getting connected with us. For whatever reason, it's just there's no audio on his side, but we'll work that out. In the meantime, though, down south by the Gulf of America, host of the Jeff Poor Show on FM Talk 1065. Oh, by the way, editor-in-chief of 1819 News, and a whole lot of other cool stuff like that. Jeff Poor, are you there?
I am present.
You are indeed. Well, I'm glad you are, because 2 out of 3 makes a quorum. So we'll call it. Hit it, man.
Assemble the Grand Council.
All right, man, as 2 of us, we'll banter back and forth and to see where it goes. But let's just hit questions, and you start. What do you got?
You buy into Paul Feinbaum discussion on the U.S. Senate there, Senator?
You stole my first question. I should have gone first. Feinbaum, first of all, I will say I have a hard time taking it serious. I agree with Senator Tuberville. He would have name ID on day one, that's for sure. But I just don't know that there's any credibility to the idea that he's going to leave his multi-million-dollar syndicated contract to go jump into, a U.S. Senate race where he may or may not prevail. Have you heard something different? You always have your ear to the ground, brother. What are you hearing?
I know he's been polling, or somebody's been polling on his behalf. So
really?
We know that. Yes.
You think they're polling on his behalf, or somebody's polling just to see what would happen if he jumped in?
Both.
Okay.
There's a lot of different polling going on, and he polls well, just like anybody there would. The other thing is, you got to think about this. Clay Travis, he went on Clay Travis's podcast.
He did.
That is the number one enemy of ESPN. That would be like someone from AL.com coming on the Grand Council and to criticize AL.com. Okay. And I think, like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to put yourself out there, if you're going to go on Clay Travis's podcast and talk about this stuff, and the corporate brass at ESPN and Disney is not thrilled by this at all, and this is because you're right. He makes a lot of money, but man, he sure knows how to needle his bosses. For that reason, I take it serious. You don't jump out of line like that and take a risky gamble and go on Clay Travis's podcast if you're not somewhat serious about doing this.
Is it a contract negotiation piece for him?
He signed a new contract last August 2024. So I thought that too, and we looked into it. So there might be something there. All
right, so Rightside got dibs on the afternoon slot for Feinbaum on your FM Talk 1065 down yonder in Mobile. Just saying.
I'll let you and Sean figure that one out.
All right, well, tell you what. Let me just let me ask you this. Do you think, he has a tendency to make a lot of people mad, and this state runs on NCAA football. That's in the blood, even more than the politics. Do you think he can get past the people who get mad at his predictions and his favoritism towards one particular team in general? What do you think?
Probably, I'm going to tell you what I think is going on here, and two things. Number one, I think he's being recruited. And so, Senator, somebody comes knocking at your door. Hey, you could be a United States Senator.
Spoiler.
You could be a United States Senator. And you think, no, not me. And then they come at you. Well, look, we polled it. So I think, number one, he's being recruited. But number two, and this is just a marketplace at work. Think about it like this. We have a pretty much Republican primary electorate that's set in stone. If it's what 14 to 20%, somewhere in that range turnout, the same people always vote.
Yeah.
And with that model, the same kind of people always win. And then if you're a consultant, you're looking at this, well, I can't win. This guy is always, this type of candidate is always going to be the candidate that's going to win this kind of election. And then you start looking at it and you're like, but what if I tried to bring in a candidate who brought a new set of voters to the realm, and and we grew turnout, we changed to get out the vote models, we changed the definition of a likely voter. Does that make us have a winning shot? And I think that's certainly the case when you get to talk about AJ McCarron.
Yeah.
I think it might have been somewhat with Bruce Pearl. I think it's certainly what they're trying to do with Paul Feinbaum. But I think Tubby Tuberville was the one who kind of showed us there's a pathway here, because you'll bring a different voter to the polling precinct than you would otherwise. And this is the way you have to do to win.
So let me ask you this, though, because I look at it, too, from who's doing the recruiting. So are they recruiting him because they really want something he has, or are they recruiting him because they really don't want something that somebody else has who's in the lead of that race? Like right now, Steve Marshall's polling ahead of all the other candidates in the race, although it's not a runaway race, but it's still, he's polling ahead. And so that being said, are the Porch Creeks, who hate Steve Marshall and they want gambling expanded to the state, are they looking at something like a Feinbaum because he'll bring something they want? And I don't know what he would bring federally, but nonetheless, what I'm saying is, do you think there's somebody out there recruiting him to prevent somebody else or to promote who he is?
Here's my theory, that there are people in Washington, D.C. who are not thrilled with the idea of Steve Marshall and Barry Moore being a United States Senator. They're just looking for someone who they think can win. And they can find that right person who they think can just win. Then they get them to D.C. Then they'll worry about the details later. But then they could try to have maybe a puppet or someone who will kind of march the beat of their drum. And they don't have to deal with, this guy might go off the John Thune reservation or whatever it may be. And I think that's what was going on here. This phenomenon, it's not organic, because Paul Feinbaum does not wake up on a Tuesday morning and say,
not at all,
I think I'm going to be a U.S. Senator.
Yeah.
Somebody's talking to him. And this gets back to the Clay Travis component of it. He doesn't go on Clay Travis's podcast just out of the blue. He's not promoting a book. He's not, there's no cross promotion here. It's not like we're the Feinbaum affiliate and he's coming on one of our shows. He's going to Clay Travis's podcast out of nowhere. Like, where did this come from? I think there's something here, and I think someone else is pushing the buttons on
So
this.
national sports gambling and online gambling interests want him in. That's what I hear.
Maybe. I don't know who it is. I don't know if it's that or it's, like I said, it's NRSC or whatever. But I think you could really maybe look at it and make the case. I don't think this is organic at all.
Okay, so let me shift gears on you real quick. And we got about 2.5 minutes before we go to the break. Just the two of us here on the quorum. But let's stick with unusual figures in state politics, because there's always still the question of what's going on with our basketball coach at Auburn. I mean, what are we seeing right now? Do you think that he is still waiting in the wings for an opportunity? I mean, you and I have talked about this before, but is Coach Pearl still waiting in the wings for an opportunity after the 6 years has passed that our state bylaws require for him to have been passed to supporting a Democrat, because he did give money to a Democrat? Or is this just his profile? He's going into retirement and he's playing the field to see what's out there.
No, I think he was serious about running for Senate. I think he really did look at it. We know, well, we've been told that he made multiple trips to Washington, D.C. He's a regular fixture up there anyway. He met with Tim Scott. They had serious discussions about it. And then this gets back to like, why are these people so adverse to to Barry Moore? I don't understand why Roy Moore, but Barry Moore and/or Steve Marshall. There's something going on here. Why do we keep hearing names? They're just not happy with these two guys.
There's a
or Jared Hudson or Morgan Murphy or whoever else may get in this race. They're not thrilled with that field. So they're looking for other candidates, but I think Bruce Pearl was actually got in talks with it, and they kind of looked at it. Then the GOP issue came up, and it wasn't clear they could get that waiver. They probably would have, but it would have been a big controversy, probably would have hurt his standing. Wait a couple of years. I still believe Mike Rogers is going to retire, and I think he's a shoo-in for that House seat.
I agree with that. That's been my premise all along, is that he'll run for Congress when Mike Rogers retires. But something you just said, I think it's fair to point out that we are not looking at some special interests or establishment Republicans or whatever else trying to. What we're not looking at is someone trying to clear the field to make it easier for a Democrat to get elected, because that won't happen. So what we're looking at is somebody who doesn't like the kind of Republicans that we currently have in the field.
And I don't get it. I really don't. You've had a lot of time, and we've, granted, Tommy Tuberville kind of rope-a-doped us along there, and it took a while to figure out what he was going to do. But you've had ample amount of time to kind of look around and say, well, we need a candidate here. And you're looking at it right now. Here it is. It's October 1st before the election, qualifying in this next year, and you don't really have a name yet. But we're tinkering with other ideas, right?
Yeah. And when's qualifying? Do you recall when qualifying ends?
Is it January?
I think it's January. Yeah. Is there like January 10th or something like that? So
Right.
Qualifying, for those who don't know, is you have to actually qualify with the party you're going to run on by a certain date, or you're not allowed to be in the election. But that also gives time for the Secretary of State to build the ballots for the primaries.
Right.
So, all right, listen, we're going to take a break right now. Good first round. That's some good speculations. Coming right back with me and Jeff Poor, and I don't know, maybe we'll get Scott Buttram. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
So I skipped fourth grade and I continued to go to school. And I was 22 when I graduated from high school. From
22?
Athens. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did anybody know that you were 22?
No. No. Because at that time I probably could buy alcohol.
Well, yeah, probably could. You might have been the best friend.
Yes.
So, you came from a vastly different culture with a vastly different perspective on life, and also maybe a deeper appreciation for what is needed versus what is wanted.
Right.
But then you got into like American junior high and American high school, and did you enjoy high school? Was it fun? Did you do sports or anything? What was it? No.
So we saw the opportunities that was here in America for us, and we knew that we left relatives at home that are struggling.
Yeah.
So I didn't have your typical high school, high schooler that's going to sport and going to doing all these things that high schooler do. And at that time in Athens, every Friday night they would ride around the square in their car, with their music blasting. That was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I didn't get to do any of that stuff because I was working.
Okay, where'd you work?
So my aunt and uncle, they earned an associate degree from Calhoun Community College, and they both got jobs. And from that, they saved their money enough to buy a Chinese restaurant.
Really?
In Huntsville, which is 30 minutes, about 20 at that time, about 20 minutes drive from Athens.
Okay. Yep.
So they bought the restaurant, and so I worked there, 7 days a week in high school.
All right. So I grew up in Huntsville.
Yeah.
You know that. You know some of my family. We
Yes.
discovered earlier.
Uh-huh.
Where was the restaurant?
It's no longer there.
Okay.
It was a Hong Kong Chinese restaurant on North Parkway before you get to Max Luther.
Yeah. I think
It's
I've eaten
right-
there.
No way. I might have served you.
You might have. That's crazy.
Yeah. So let's see. It was right next to. It was attached to a hotel that has the orange roof.
The orange roof. Yeah.
Oh.
Your husband's over here wanted to say
Yeah,
it. Don't worry about it.
I
But
know.
but the reality is, so your family had a
gosh.
restaurant and you worked in it. How many days a week did you work there?
7 days.
Oh, so you went to school and worked 7 days a week.
I would go to school. After school, I would drive up to Huntsville and work there, waiting tables. And in between waiting tables, I'm doing my homework.
So you've definitely got a work ethic.
Yes.
The restaurant was where you spent the majority of your free time, which wasn't really free, but was the whole family involved in the restaurant?
Yes. My aunt and uncle, of course, my aunt would quit her job to run the restaurant. My uncles continued to work just to keep the insurance.
Yeah.
And my sister would stay back home to take care of their boys who were still in school. But I helped with the restaurant during the week. And then on the weekend, everybody, the whole family worked. On Friday night, Saturday and Sunday, the whole family worked in the restaurant.
I think the other thing that too often Americans miss, and not everybody, because there's entrepreneurial spirit here. There's still a great sense of industry in the United States, and there are people that appreciate what we have, but there's also people too often that become complacent and don't realize that sometimes hard work really does pay off. And that's also honoring God. That's a stewardship of what he gave you.
Exactly.
Part of stewarding is even your time.
Right.
The relationships that you had with the sponsors who were with you for 2 years. One of the things that strikes me, there's a passage, and I've got to think where it is right now, but I think it's in 1 Thessalonians, but it says, because you had become so dear to us, we were content not only to share the gospel with you, but even our very lives as well. Meaning that what you had was a deep relationship with these people. Did that continue even after the first 2 years? Did the families you had seen that sponsored you and helped you, were they still around? Were you still seeing them?
Yeah. We still continue to see some of them. Yeah.
You said something in one of your speeches too about something. I'm jumping around a little bit, but you said something about one of the things that really got you was a Salvation Army angel tree.
Yeah. That first Christmas in America. I was 13.
Okay.
And then my sister, who was 10, 11. And then I have three, my aunt and uncle had 3 boys. They're younger.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Making common sense like a superpower. All right, we're going right back to the Grand Council, which is just 2 of us. We got a quorum, 2 out of 3. That's a quorum. It's me and Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5 and 1819 News. All right, Jeff Rowe, I'm going to hit you with the first question here. The whole thing about Pete Hegseth, Secretary of War Hegseth, having the meeting with all the generals. I've got thoughts and opinions on it, and I'm wondering, what do you think about it? How did you feel about the gathering of generals, the all hands meeting they had?
I think they had to do it that way. I think it had to be a public showing. I mean, they could have just sent an email or a memo or whatever. But I think to fulfill a campaign promise and reform military or whatever it may be, they wanted to show this to the American public. So that's why they made the speech televised and Donald Trump speaking and whatnot. But that was one of the campaign pledges, that we needed to turn our war fighters back into war fighters. And I think this was something that had to be done to show the public that, hey, this is what we're doing.
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I loved it. I've played clips of it on the show today. I talked to an Army officer yesterday who loved it. And said that not only did he enjoy the speech and the things that were said, but he was chuckling through several things in it too. The idea that even generals are going to be required to be held to height weight standards, and and that personnel are going to be considered the top on the list of the priorities, and to set the task, conditions, and standards for the military again. And and got rid of so much of the woke distractions to readiness. But I agree with you. I think it had to happen like this, in person, and all the liberal left that are screaming about it, to me, totally miss the point. They do work for the president of the United States. They do work for the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, and the idea that they can't call them together for a meeting, that is just absolutely not accurate.
Well,
So
I'll
I
tell you
think it
something
was
else,
good.
Senator, and to me it's interesting. Like at the very early part of Pete Hegseth's tenure, the leaks. Remember the leaks
Oh,
and the
yeah.
signal chats
Yeah.
and all of that. And I think he's really cracked down on that. And I so think about it like this: like doing it publicly the way that he did it, it prevents them from like leaking stuff out of context or trying to stir up a controversy, because that's what the Pentagon does. They play DC politics, and you do this publicly. Well, it's not getting leaked to Punchbowl News or whatever. The whole world is there to see it, and that's number one. And number two, what kind of message does it send to our adversaries to do it this way too?
Yeah.
So there's some of that, but I think the very public aspect of it was intentional.
I think it was intentional. I think it was necessary. I think it was good. I think it's also worth repeating. Yeah, good stuff. What do you got for me? Next question. What you have?
We got to talk shutdown, and
Yeah.
I the Schumer playbook here, and I think Hakeem Jeffries, not I know it's a meme of him in the sombrero or whatever, but I mean, the House isn't doing anything. The House is going to do what the House is going to do, and that depends on who's in control there with the gavel. But the Senate and Schumer, they're being dictated the terms of this discussion and the terms of this whole controversy by New York Democrat primary voters. Schumer's terrified of AOC challenging him. I think Jeffries is afraid of losing his post, but he said the House is not as important here. So they got a real problem here because the country, if you will, and for that matter, at least national Democrats have been hijacked by Democratic primary voters of blue New York State. And I think that's where this all comes from. They think to be successful, to remain in power, they have to appeal to this segment, this base, and it's not going to work. It's going to hurt them nationally.
Yeah, I agree. And the idea that Schumer would be prone to a primary by AOC is also a clear indictment on the Democrat Party overall. But that being said, I mean, I look at it and think you're gonna shut down the entire U.S. government because of your fear over your own localized politics. Is really it's more than a sad commentary on the Democrat Party. It's especially a sad commentary on the hubris of Chuck Schumer.
Well, this is what they did. This is what they did. They villainized, demonized. They threw everything they had at Donald Trump, and they made him out to be at least in their supporters' eyes, the worst person in the world. They painted themselves in this corner, Senator. They forced themselves.
They had to.
They forced this hand. This is where they are. They painted themselves in a corner, and now they can't go play nice with Donald Trump because of what they said. So, at some point, their rabid base is going to cost them, they've already lost one national election. It may cost them a midterm at this rate. And this tactic, by not leaving a little out there, leaving a little in the tank, they're stuck here. Then this is what they got to do. They got to play shutdown politics, and they're going to lose because of it.
And meanwhile, we all have to deal with it. Hey, brother, the music's playing. Preacher got to quit preaching. So we are done. Thank you, my friend, for being on. That's Jeff Poor from FM Talk 106.5 and 1819 News. And just little old me, two-man quorum, but nonetheless, Grand Council. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
That very first Christmas, I woke up. Don't understand anything about Christmas.
You grew up Buddhist? Is that right? I think I heard you say that. Yeah.
I grew up, well, my family, Buddhist, but we weren't like practicing Buddhist, religiously or anything like that. I think it was just one of those things that you kind of pass on from your ancestor.
It was cultural religion as much as anything.
Yeah. And so I remember waking up Christmas morning, and there was a Christmas tree that's decorated. And there's these big mesh bag. At that time, it was the angel tree came from the Salvation Angel tree, which I didn't know that it came from Salvation Angels tree program.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, but I remember waking up seeing that the tree and these big mesh bags that full of toys and oranges. And I remember at that time, now I'm dated back, the little strawberry shortcake dolls, that smell just like strawberry shortcake. I remember smelling it for the first time. And it makes such an impression. I'm like, who did this? Who would do this for us? It would just make such a big impression on me that a few years later, I found out that it was the Salvation Army Angel Tree, and I wanted to volunteer there and help. And so I got to volunteer with that program for several years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Give back.
To give back.
Yeah.
Because it makes such a huge impression on me.
Well, so let me ask you this. So you came to America with, you called it a fairy tale ideal of what America might be, never having seen it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've been here for a few years. Was it living up to expectations?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
So no deflation, no loss of the ideal?
No. Part of it because we knew what communism did to our country. And we knew that my parents and some of my 4 siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles in Vietnam, I knew that they were struggling so badly that anything is better than what they are living. And America's given us these opportunities we're just so grateful to whatever America gave us, and we seize it, and work really hard. I've always, when I go and speak to kids now, I've always like, you don't have to be the smartest kid in the classroom. You just got to show up and work. That's all.
I practice law, and I was told by an old lawyer back when I was a new lawyer. I won't say young because I wasn't young, but I was told by an old lawyer when I was a new lawyer. He said, you don't have to be the smartest lawyer in town. You just have to be the hardest working.
Yep.
He said, most lawyers are lazy. He said, you do the work and do the research and prepare yourself. You'll beat the smartest lawyer in town every time.
Exactly. Wise words.
There are wise words. I actually shared them with another young lawyer later because now I'm the old lawyer. Well, so let me ask you something. You mentioned a moment ago, you knew back home that your family that you had left behind lived still in a struggle in many ways. Did you have communication with them? Did you know how they were doing? Did you write back and forth? What?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. At that time, we wrote back and forth, and it would take months. And everything we wrote to them was open by the communists.
Oh.
And they would read our letters because I knew that because when I received letters from home, my parents and sibling would date the letter, so I knew it would take several months. And all of my letters that I received had been opened. And I remember one time I even slipped $1 or $2 in my letter, and my dad wrote back and told us not to do that anymore because they won't get it.
Wow. Hey, all you Rightside ruffians out there, you are listening to Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative and just plain right. Covering down on some major ground across the Southeast U.S. of A. Y'all, I'm talking about this show. This one, it goes like from Huntsville back over to Chattanooga and from Tuscaloosa back over to Gadsden and all the way down to that loveliest little village on the plains we call Auburn, straight across the line from there to what we call, once again, Fort Benning. And then big old patches of North Georgia and Mississippi all thrown in just for good measure. And that's just the radio. Just the radio. Then there's all y'all out there in the whole wide world going the World Wide Web, dialing in right now, watching it, live streaming the show, both video and audio. And oh, by the way, that's on places like X, YouTube, Rumble, Facebook, and our website, rightsidemedia.org. And then tons of y'all are podcasting the show after the fact, catching up on what you missed. So I'm just saying, we can see it, we know it, we appreciate it more than you could possibly know. Thank you for being a part of our lives. I got a bunch of text messages. I'll get a few of those. And then I tell you what, let's do this first. You may recall, I'm going to, JP and I have decided to chase a rabbit for a minute. You may recall a few weeks ago, we introduced you to a Democrat running for governor in the state of Alabama. He goes by the name of Pastor Jamel Brown. Pastor Jamel Brown has a rather unusual platform. His rather unusual platform is he intends to legalize weed. He wants to make partying a big deal at the governor's mansion. He also intends to release prisoners from the prisons in order to put people back to work, he says. Pastor Jamel Brown, no fooling, and we have a special sound effect for Pastor Jamel Brown.
Wait, you forgot one of the better parts.
What'd I forget?
His campaign condoms that he was giving out.
Oh, he's giving out campaign condoms.
Yeah.
That's right. God, can't make that stuff up. Pastor Jamel Brown sound effect. Hit it for me. Nice. Pastor Jamel Brown. Sounds like the ice cream man's coming. So Pastor Jamel Brown has apparently gotten a new campaign video. If you're watching the live stream, you'll get to see it. If not, you'll at least get to hear it. But this is Pastor Jamel Brown literally standing in front of the governor's mansion in Montgomery. And this is what he had to say.
Hello, everybody. This is Pastor Jermaine Brown, Democratic candidate for governor of the great state of Alabama. I'm standing in front of my soon-to-be future home, once elected as governor. This 17-bedroom mansion here on South Perry Street. Yes, this where I'll be living at upstairs. We're going to have so much fun at the governor's mansion. We're going to bring fun, parties, R&B nights, twerk Tuesdays, wasted Wednesdays, all type of thirsty Thursday, all type of good things back to the governor's mansion. Listen, I need your vote and I need your support. And to the haters out there, if you're mad because I said we're going to turn up, have cookouts, and have big gatherings here once I'm governor, well, whoop-de-doo, we're going to do it. Jamel Brown, 2026, vote for me.
Give me a laugh track or something, man. That is unbelievable. God. You know, what's crazy is I cannot decide if he is a legitimate candidate or not. I mean,
he's not.
He's okay, not legitimate in terms of like, is he going to win?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, has he paid his filing fees? And is he actually like registered his campaign?
I don't know. I see him pop up on my Instagram all the time, and it's like videos of him reading campaign finance laws and studying up on that. And he's going to like Troy, Alabama, claiming he's there campaigning, where he's just taking a video talking about how beautiful the Walmart is in Troy, Alabama. So like, I don't know how serious it is, but I'll say it's entertaining. You know, if we're not going to have an actual race for governor, whoever's just going to be like anointed, then at least make the opposition entertaining.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and listen. I love Tommy Tuberville. I think the world of him, but I'm going to have to go ahead and say, Coach, I am asking for you to debate Jamel Brown on stage. I want to see a Tuberville Brown debate. That's going to be a hoot.
Maybe we should have Tuberville call in and say, Coach, listen. This is very important, and we're going to talk about this the whole interview. Will you or will you not institute Twerk Tuesdays at the governor's mansion?
Can we please have Wasted Wednesdays
Thirsty
and Thirsty Thursdays? And we didn't even get to it, but I'm sure there was going to be a Freaky Friday. Ain't no telling what was going to happen. I mean, they got to pass out condoms and everything else, right? So there you have it. Pastor Jamel Brown running for governor. And as the updates to his campaign become more public, we will let you know. In the meantime, please play the outgoing sound effect for Pastor Jamel Brown. He's driving away in the distance. Wave to him as he goes. Bye, Pastor Jamel. Thank you for your time. That is hilarious. Jeff from Indiana just checked in. He says, well, Phil, I guess if he doesn't make it to the governor's mansion, he can always sell used cars because he's got that flair. Yes, he does. Checking in earlier, Matt from Madison said, I sure hope the other cabinet secretaries take a lesson from Hegseth and clean their houses. They are. And that's one of the reasons why the Trump administration is having to go back to court so many times, because of, like the Department of Education is trying to even shut itself down, and USAID, that's Department of State now. And so, yeah, they are. In fact, I would say that Secretary of War may be a little bit behind the power curve compared to some of the other department heads that are letting people go. But it's amazing to watch. Elmo from Rising Fawn, Georgia. Elmo from Rising Fawn says, if you can, please take a moment, explain to the listeners what money is fungible means. If you haven't worked in the government or a big corporation, you might not know. Thanks. Great show. He says, we're blessed to have you. Thanks, Elmo. Appreciate you. So earlier I was talking about the fact that Democrats want to be able to spend Medicaid dollars on illegal immigrants. And they will claim, no, we don't. No, we don't at all. Well, money is fungible is a phrase that basically means if I put $10 into an account and you put $20 into an account, I can easily say, well, my $10 didn't get spent. Who can tell? Because they're commingled. Money is fungible, meaning that once the money's in a pot, it can be moved here, there, and the other, and you can try to pretend that you only spent the 20 from the other person, not the 10 from this one. But that's not the way it really works. And everybody knows that what they'll do is they'll move money around like a shell game and pretend that they really didn't spend federal Medicaid dollars doing things that are illegal, when in fact they did. So that's the quickest example I can give you of money is fungible.
I'll give you another one. Like when the Biden administration gave $6 billion, was it, to Iran to try to appease them and let them do their thing. And then when they were pressed in the the press room about, how do you know they're not going to use, this money for, I don't know, building nuclear weapons or shipping this money to Hamas or Hezbollah? And I can't remember which member of the administration it was, but they said, well, we've actually earmarked the money that we sent them, so they're not going to use this money for that. And it's like,
come on. Okay,
sure, you're not that stupid. So you think we're stupid to think that they won't say, oh, the United States thinks we're not going to spend this money on, terrorism. So how about we just take the $6 billion over here, put this $6 billion here, and they'll never know. So that was the most recent example I can think of where they were like, do they know? Unreal. Do they know that how money works?
Money is fungible. Yes, indeed. Marie from Madison says, another example of proof that people here illegally are getting taxpayer-funded benefits in Minneapolis, Minnesota, where the state House Democrat caucus leader, Melissa Hartman, was assassinated in June. This is right before her death. She was the sole Democrat to cross over and vote with Republicans on a bill to end adult undocumented immigrants' access to publicly funded health care called Minnesota Care. That's a great point, Marie. Thank you for bringing that back up. I appreciate that. And yes, I do believe that she was assassinated in part because of that. Scott from Russellville, Alabama says, you won't see this anymore. What do you send me? It's a little green army soldier, but it's a very overweight little green army soldier. And he's got an extra belt. He's got an extra fork and spoon tucked into his belt. That's kind of hilarious. And I want to know where you can get one of those. Yellow Dog Mike from Huntsville. Yellow Dog, what have you got? Yellow Dog Mike says, how can you not see how unwell, unhinged Trump is? The address to the troops was ridiculous. Hegseth is a joke. None of our troops respect him. You've got a felon, draft dodger, and a drunk lecturing them about fitness. Only a Trump toady can think otherwise. Where is your conscience? Please, Yellow Dog, try to cram one more leftist talking point into your text next time. So let me get this straight. A drunk lecturing them about fitness. First of all, no, he's not a drunk. And secondly, have you seen the man do APFT, the Army Physical Fitness Test? Because he can run rings around guys half his age. So I would say that you don't fake your fitness, that it's obvious that Pete Hegseth is pretty fit. That being said, he's also doing a freaking good job. And I talk to people in the lines and they are loving it. It's a whole new world. Oh, by the way, Yellow Dog, go look at the recruiting numbers. Just saying. Shag Nasty the Atheist. Why not? Let's get them back to back. Shag Nasty the Atheist says, where is it? He says, they doing the recruiting. Is that not the deep state? Oh, he's talking about trying to recruit somebody like maybe Paul Feinbaum. He says, they doing the recruiting. Is that not the deep state? Thought we were draining the swamp. No, the swamp is not drained yet. It is not. And Shag, yeah, I would say that's probably a deep state and or establishment figure that's doing that.
I was going to say, you got no arguments here. Like, we're not claiming there's not a deep state even in Alabama politics.
Oh, there's
actually the exact opposite is what we're saying.
That's exactly right. Joe in Tennessee says, Bama fan here. Paul Feinbaum is the Jerry Springer of sports radio. He's on the side of whoever is on social media, pushing his agenda, stirring the pot. No more rope-a-dope by posers. Hope Alabama put one of the two M guys? Oh, I'd be like Marshall and Moore, I guess.
I see.
Marshall and Moore in the house. Want the best from my old home state, Joe C. in Tennessee. Okay. Thank you, Joe C. And then Herb from Gurley says, I think Yellow Dog Mike writes for the Babylon Bee. I love it. or maybe that he writes for the Onion.
Yeah, the Onion.
Yeah, he writes for the Onion. And then Lynn from Tanner, Alabama says, this Trump toady loves her president and thinks he's doing a fantastic job, and I would vote for him over and over again. Indeed. All right, listen, we're taking a break right now. Take that break, come right back. Last break of the day on Hump Day. Don't forget, I'll be on CNN tomorrow night. I've got guests in the studio tomorrow. Give them all the love you give me. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio. We'll be right back.
It's open and read and stilled.
But at least they knew you were safe.
Yes.
How long did it take before they knew you were safe?
6 or 8 months.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you were able to get a message to them while you were in the refugee camp?
When the organization came and helped us, we wrote a letter to my cousin in Australia, and they delivered to my cousin in Australia. My cousin in Australia wrote to my parents, said that your family is in a refugee camp in Indonesia. That's how they, because my mom, I found out later in 93 when I went back that my mom, the market in Vietnam is, people go to the market in Vietnam a lot, every day, right?
Like the street markets.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's also a social place, a place where people catch up with their neighbors, and find out,
all the
gossip going on. And every day she would go to the market and she would hear so-and-so left, but they didn't survive the sea.
Oh, wow.
So-and-so was robbed by pirates and they killed everyone. It got to the point where my parents hadn't heard from us for months. My mom was so distraught. She thought that she might have sent her kids to die, because she hadn't heard from us for months, and she didn't think that we had survived. She said, I can't hear this anymore. So she stopped going to the market, and she shut herself upstairs in one of the rooms until she could hear if we had survived or not.
Wow.
And my sister said one time she went to spend some time with my grandmother for the summer and came back, and my mom was sitting there, and she didn't recognize my mom because my mom had lost so much weight, and she was just grieving, thinking that we didn't survive.
Wow. But you did. Mm-hmm. You came to the United States. Life is better. And were you able to communicate with them directly at that point? Were those letters, you weren't having to go through Australia anymore. You were sending letters directly.
Right.
Wow. So you're 22 years old leaving high school, but you met a guy named John at some point, who's sitting over here to my left. And you and John now have been married for a lot of years.
It'll be 35 years this June.
Yeah. My wife, Charlene, and I are at 38.
Wow.
But you and John met, and I saw you give a speech to a church, and you said that John had already decided he was going to marry an Asian woman because God had told him that.
Yes.
And then he met you.
Yes.
And I guess that was it.
Yeah.
But you also had some friends who prayed you two together. Mm-hmm. Tell that story.
Okay, so let's see how. Okay, so John went on a mission trip, Central America, and he was engaged to a lovely young lady in North Alabama. Well, during his mission trip, he realized she wasn't the one for him. So when he got back, he broke up their engagement. So a few months after that, he was going down an escalator at the Parisian. If you live in North Alabama, there was a mall there.
I did.
With a store called Parisians.
Yeah.
Well, he was buying a gift for a baby shower, and he came down this escalator, and he saw this older Asian lady at the end of the escalator where there was some makeup counters.
Yeah.
And he had a flashback that when he was a kid, he saw himself marry an Asian person, a woman. And so he said, he did out loud, he said, God, that's what I need.
Apparently he was right.
And so the next day when he went to the baby shower, he saw a friend, and his friend said, we have this girl we want you to meet. She's a friend of my girlfriend, who at that time was my best friend in high school. And John's like, I don't really want to date a high school girl.
Because he was older, right?
Right. He graduated from UAH, has his engineering degree and all that stuff. He was 25. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a high school girl. And his friend said, oh, no, she's actually 22 years old.
But she's still in high school.
Yeah, she's still in high school. And he said, no, I don't really want to date a stupid high school girl. And they're like, no, she's actually 22. And they had to explain why I was 22 in high school. I didn't know English and all that. And they had this a grainy high school newspaper of me winning some sort of award. And they show it to him, and he said, oh, okay, I'll meet him and her. And so he came on our awards night.
And we are back. Phil Williams, Rightside Radio, solid conservative, just plain right. Just saving the world one soundbite at a time. Just pulling pins on truth grenades, y'all. I'm saying we're giving you all the truth you can slap on a bumper sticker. Bulletproof influence, baby. All right, John from Huntsville has the grades. He says Jeff Poor gets an A+ for his outstanding performance. Phil Williams gets an A++ for his spectacular spot-on performance, which means today's winner with the perfect A++ is none other than the incredible, magnificent JP for his absolutely flawless performance, and of course for that masterpiece ice cream truck sound effect. Congratulations, you were the champion.
I do have to say the ice cream sound effect was Phil's idea, so
but you had to pull it together.
I did play yes, I did do the handwork. Yeah.
Oh, all right, all good. All right, listen, we're going to the phones right now because you know who's on there, Jeff Rowe from Indiana. Hey, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing real good. I'm going through where they sell Corvettes at.
Nice, man. You moved town. You're up there at Bowling Green.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
And I can just imagine that preacher if he doesn't make it to the governor's mansion. I can just see him now. Come on down to the used car lot and buy this slightly used Hellcat. It's going to the church on Sunday. My grandma, and she got there really fast because she was never late.
You've done that before. Oh God.
Oh my God!
What do you think? Is Pastor Jamel Brown? Is he literally running for the office, or is he just like an influencer trying to get comedian points online?
Well, if he isn't.
Oh, did we lose Jeff?
I mean,
oh, there he is. Hey, we lost you there for a second. You said if he isn't something, I didn't hear you.
I say if he isn't, who else would the Democrats going to run?
Right now, they got nobody, and there's. You know what? He's the only one willing to say the things out loud that he's actually saying. I will say that. Props for that.
And the rest of them, like I say, I don't know anybody who'd be that would gather as many votes as he would because he's interesting, you know. So
he might get some for twerking Tuesday and what was Wednesday going to be?
Wasted Wednesdays
and Thirsty Thursdays.
Yep.
And I feel certain there was a Freaky Friday in there somewhere.
Well, you know he's going to carry Birmingham anyway.
I don't know. We'll see. I don't think he's going to carry anything except, maybe a plate of barbecue back to the house. But anyway, it's a hoot to watch. All right. So what do you think about Pete Hegseth and the military the meeting with the generals and senior enlisted?
I think it was past time for something like that to happen. We've been this woke military thing has been going on for a lot longer than this one the last couple administrations there. It's time to buckle down and get back to business again.
Yeah,
And
I would agree.
we don't need any electric tanks, and we don't need no stuff like that.
They actually have done a proof of concept on an electric tank, which the M1 Abrams, that's a massive vehicle. Right now, it runs on jet turbine engines, and they've been like doing a demo of it with batteries. And I'm thinking, why would you waste our tax dollars knowing full well you can't make that survivability on the battlefield?
Yeah, and I don't know how explosive smokeless powder is in our bombs either. We gotta keep them green too, I'm sure.
And the first thing you gotta do is you don't take out the air defenses. You take out cows to destroy all the cow flatulence that's hurting the ozone.
That's right. And they'd have eaten their near meat MREs too.
That's right. We have achieved cattle dominance. And we are not scared of what's going on with the MREs. We just listen. It's the whole thing. It's amazing to me what the left got away with for 4 years with our military, and I say that seriously. It's amazing to me how they took the ball and ran with it, turning it into what I like to call a petri dish for social experimentation.
It just shows you how this country is tilted one way or the other. It borders on insanity. We're walking a thin line where, the people's got a little bit of brains and people who are completely insane. And I don't know what's going to change that, except for, just keep going at the way we're going and prove it to them that they're actually insane, because they don't, stupid people don't know they're stupid. That's the problem.
Well, yeah, that often is the problem. And what's there's that old thing from the movie. I see dead people. They don't even know they're dead. I saw a meme about that. It says, "I see stupid people, and they don't even know they're stupid."
Yeah. Exactly right.
Well,
I mean, if you're Democrats right now, everything's a runaway thing. Anytime you interview a Democrat on the street like they do, they talk for about 2 seconds and then they run. You never see a conservative get interviewed and run away. They always sit there and stick around and answer questions.
Well, that's because we're usually proud of what we stand on, and we know that it actually makes sense. They've got a talking point, and please don't ask them to get below the surface on it, generally speaking. Now, every once in a while, you'll find somebody that actually can defend their points, but most of the time they can't. All right, brother. Well, listen, you be safe on the road. We're almost there. Have you passed by the Corvette Museum, by the way, yet?
Oh, I don't go exactly past it, but I'm already on the road to Owensboro right now.
All right, Bubba. You have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. By the way, I'm out at CNN tomorrow, so prayers on that. But call in and talk to the ladies who are guest hosting for me tomorrow, okay?
I sure will. Good luck, and take one of them Ben shot glasses with you to CNN.
I should.
Just make them mad. Just make them mad.
All right, brother. Take care. We'll see you tomorrow. All right, listen, you guys. I am just serious when I say it. There are indeed more of us than there are of them. God is still very much on his throne. Y'all stay in the fight. We're going to see you tomorrow. I'm not going to see you tomorrow. I'll be at CNN, but JP will see you tomorrow. Take care.